Chicken.
I love it. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to SJM-Along. Welcome to Book Club. We're so happy to be here with you. We have all of the beautiful hi ladies who are hosts to chat tonight. We're so excited. Some of us are wearing our bookish merch. Can't trouble my merch.
Yes.
I literally am obsessed with this t-shirt. There's a picture on my Instagram if you want to see it, but I've just been petting it, and I'm like, so beautiful. And literally my Manon one, my 13 one that I got, I may have cried a single tear over it.
Oh, I love that one. I saw your picture. Yeah.
For people who don't know what it means yet, you will.
You will.
Oh God. Another one.
We're not going to waste time with intros because everybody has their name up there. We're going to start going through what people think because we have a long way to go. We were talking before you joined, Rachel. We may even do an intermission during this one for potty breaks because some of us are drinking. And I don't want to stop because I have to pee. So At some point, y'all who are watching, we may just take a 5-minute mute break and everybody go run to the potty because, some of us, we can only hold so much liquor and excitement. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. But who's excited to talk about this book? Because holy shit, I'm so excited. Sam, if you watch this, I'm very sorry you can't be with us. I'm sorry you had to move, whatever. But I won't lie, I was kind of happy that I would be able to get in on it because for some reason, I was a stupid host and didn't sign up for my favorite book because I was trying to be nice and be like, I'll give people a chance. And then I was like, what the fuck? I came up with this read along. I don't have to be nice. So Sam, I hope you have a good move and that you watch this and watch us gush about this. So anyway, we are waiting for Jessin still to join. She's having internet issues. As always, I may have internet issues and drop out. Just carry on. I'll get back on eventually. But yeah, as you see, I have the banner going across the bottom. Remember, if you are a rereader, we're going to stick to the end of ACOMAF. So please don't speak ahead. Just because what's the fun in that? We're digging into it. But we're going to get going with the question we ask every time as we go around the circle here. For our first time readers, we'll start in the comments with what you thought of this. And I think we only have one first time reader, right? And that's Jackie. So why don't you tell us some thoughts, girlfriend?
Okay. I'm gonna be honest. I literally finished this book 4 hours ago. And I don't really know how I feel. I'm still coming off of the what the fuck just happened to my what just fucking happened? I feel happy and sad and angry all at the same fucking time. And I didn't know that was actually humanly possible. And I'm a chick, so we all know how much emotions can go through our bodies at one time. But oh my God, I fucking loved it. I loved it. I love this roller coaster that Sarah just put me on. And that's why tonight I'm drinking.
Yep.
I feel that in my soul.
I cried, I screamed, oh my God, just that last 100 pages, the last 100.
Yeah, they go by quick.
Oh yeah, that was the crazy. I love roller coasters. That was the craziest roller coaster I've ever been on my entire life. I have read some great books, but this is not just a great book. This is perfect. This hits everything. And I don't say that about a lot of books. The last one I said that about was Empire the Vampire, and the one previous that was Outlander. So yeah, this book hits everything.
I love it.
Oh my God, I have so much to say. So much.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, so I'm going to say this up front too. Sorry. I have so many notes of things. We are going to do this one chronologically the same way we did for Queen of Shadows. I think that's how we're going to do it for the rest of the books now, because there's just too many characters to do character by character and go through their entire arc each at a time. Mm-hmm. That worked better for Throne of Glass when there was 4 people to worry about. So anyway, by the time we get to chapter 55, we'll be nice and knackered if we're drinking. So it's going to be great. But so anyway,
don't mind me if I'm crying in the corner. It's just a thing I do.
Oh yeah.
To go to the field position. I'll just bring the laptop down there with me.
Hold on. I'm gonna read some of these so people who are listening can hear them. Then I really didn't get the hype for the first book, but after reading the second, hell, this was amazing. Yes. So many people give up after the first one, and it's too soon. Stacy said, I fully understand the hype, and all my spending money will be geared to merch. Absolutely understand. Stopped by to say hi. Is this an open door YA? Well, this would be new adult. We have moved into new adult, and there is definitely a couple very wide open doors. So there you go. And they shall be open from now on. So no more even slightly. I would call ACOTAR had like a cracked door based on
Mm-hmm.
But the door is definitely open. I feel like you have to suffer through ACOTAR. Yeah, this is true. Okay. Mama Needs to Read Romance said, I was a first-time reader and I loved what developed between Rhys-Anne and Feyre. Absolutely. I don't read a lot of fantasy romance, but this is amazing. Rhys, he's the best. I know, he's amazing. People who call him creepy and shit, I just want to kind of punch them in the face. I don't get violent over too often because I understand people's opinions. But if people actually make it all the way through this book and they still think that he's creepy somehow, you just like these books just aren't meant for you, which is fine. But like, don't go calling him creepy. Like he's not. He's perfection. You can shut up, okay?
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah. Not me eating soup while watching. Love it. Okay. Anybody else in the comments who's a first timer? Shoot in here. Because we're gonna skip to the rereaders in a second. I so agree. I love Rhys and hate when people say, when people say bad stuff. Like, there's a couple like who at the time, no, I'm just kidding, we're close friends who would say these things, and I'm like, did you read ACOMAF? And they're like, no, I stopped after ACOTAR. And I'm like, well, then duh. Like, you don't understand the story arc. Then, like, of course you think that. Anyway, all right. So this is everybody else. I mean, I like it more and more every time. And of course, this time I used the graphic audio, and I think everyone will agree that was fucking amazing. I liked this graphic audio even more than the first one. And I don't just mean just because I like the story better. I feel like I knew what to expect more. So I wasn't as like annoyed by like the background music. The first time the background music, because I sped it up a little bit, the background music sounds like
yes.
And this time around, I didn't have that problem. So let's go around this time. Melissa, what did you think this time around?
I actually liked it more this time. I mean, I loved it the first time, but after reading it this time, I was like, oh my gosh, like it's just so many things that like I was able to pick up on that I didn't pick up on the first time. And because I knew going into this one, the first time I read it, that Rhys was who she ended up with, but I was like, but how? Like, what happened? But then with this one, I was able to just enjoy the ride that you go on through it, and I'm like, okay, I can appreciate all the little things, and like, it was just perfection. Like, definitely a favorite book of all time.
Yeah. When you know where it's going, it's helpful.
Yeah.
Joe?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, that's no surprise. I mean, this is like, I think my 5th or 6th time reading this book. I mean, whenever I do a reread of the series, a lot of the times I'll just skip ACOTAR, but I did this time. I did read it, but I love this book because I think that, especially with Feyre's character, I mean, you get to know her in the first book, but in this book, you get to see her work through all of that trauma and the guilt and the pain and the suffering and find her place and find out, come into her power and who she is in this new world. And I absolutely love it. And also Rhys is hot and sexy, so that's a bonus.
Rachel?
So this is my first time rereading any of Sarah J. Maas's books. And there were a couple big things that stood out to me upon reread. I feel like this time around, I appreciated more of like the character development going on. Whereas the first time that I read it, I was just so focused on like the crazy ending that was like my lasting impression. Whereas like this time around, yeah, I just like noticed more things. I noticed more things about the characters. I actually forgot about several events that happened in this book. Like my memory is terrible when it comes to like fantasy novels. Yeah, so that like really stood out to me. And also like it's so crazy to me. This is one of those series where like there is such a huge difference between ACOTAR and ACOMAF in like quality, in story. Like it almost feels like, because to me, ACOTAR is, for me, it's very lackluster. I'll just be upfront. And so to me, it almost feels like a different author wrote book 1 than book 2, because to me, that's how big of a jump there is in quality, and I think writing style as well. And we know that she was, you know, obviously improving her craft as she went along. But yeah, and of course, like the graphic audio, I think this one was better produced than the first one as well. So I just feel like, because I was listening to a different audiobook, I listened to the regular audiobook, obviously, the first time that I read it. So because of these little differences here and there, that definitely like elevated my experience.
Yeah. I would have to look this up again to be sure, but I believe in an interview I heard her say once that even though this one that ACOTAR came out after Heir of Fire, I don't know that it was written after Heir of Fire.
That makes sense.
That's when it was put out. So I think when we look at her like writing journey that we've been going on for her like skill wise, I believe ACOTAR was written more around like Crown of Midnight, even while she was doing that. And then this series just wasn't launched until then. I believe I heard her say that. So, and again, like I agree with you. And I also know that she knew where she was taking this the whole time.
Right.
And she even said in interviews that like she didn't want people to love Tamlin too much because she knew what she was going to do. She's like, I knew people would be gushing over him because he's the lead in this one, but like I always knew where it was going. And I think when you have hindsight, you can see that like, yeah, we weren't made to completely fall in love with him. Like you still have compassion for him and like his people and his court, but you don't get to connect with him the way that we will with Rhys. But the one other thing I wanted to say too, now that all of you guys have went again, is one of the things that I liked better this time is I was giving like Feyre her space this time. I mean, I always love this book watching her arc. I mean, I absolutely do. But in general, I'm usually watching her arc in conjunction with how she's like getting along with Rhys as we go, you know, because I'm here for the romance. And this time where I'm like, you're going to get your romance. Like it's there, like it's happening. Watching her actual steps of growth and how they work. Because I think that Sarah does a beautiful job. Like she doesn't just get over her trauma. It's not just done. You know, there are very concentrated steps and things that help her along the way. And I think people do a great disservice to this book when they say it's just like fairy fucking. And there was some TikTok that I loved. I wish I'd saved it. Who said, people call this fairy porn. Do they know the actual percentage of sexy time in this book is less than 1% of the book? And in books that are considered erotica, it's usually 50 to 70% of a book that has sex scenes in it. So people who want to call this fairy porn, they can go fuck off because it's literally not, which we all knew that. But
what you said, Jen, about how Sarah, you remembered Sarah writing this book prior to
like Heir of Fire.
Well, ACOTAR being prior to Heir of Fire.
Yeah.
When back to what you said earlier, on top of that, you said people are saying Rhys is creepy. I didn't find Rhys creepy after the first book. I was rooting for Rhys. Like I never got, like I knew he was going to do some shady shit, but I liked Maze because I liked the villains. So I never experienced that. So when I got into this book and I knew this was their kind of story and how this was going to all play out.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved Tamlin. Don't get me wrong. I loved it. You all remember me like raving about him in my videos, but I always liked Rhys. So I think she did a really good job for the ones that knew what to look for. We saw it.
Right.
You know, I think she did an excellent job with it. And then she just gave it to us in this book. And then, stuff happened.
So sorry.
Hey, Justin.
The only thing I would point out about that, because I agree with you, obviously, is that if you have people, because this was in the YA section, it was for a very long time, or you have either teens reading it, or you have like parents and adults, or not even parents, just just people reading it, and it's in the YA section, and you have him, there is a sexual assault aspect to being drugged and touched in front of people.
Yeah.
So for that's the creepy part that a lot of people latch onto, and him, hurting her arm even more. Like, we know where it's going. We see that, like, okay, there's more to this person. But again, in defense of my friends who are like, he's creepy, I say, did you read ACOMAF? And if they only read ACOTAR, I'm like, then yeah, you'd think he was creepy. He dressed her in a like friggin' string bikini and touched her all night. Yeah. That's assault. That's assaulting.
Yeah. It is.
But he has a full arc that people aren't, we get to see the fruition of that. But we're going to let Jessin go and tell us her thoughts. And then we're going to get started on this freaking list of chat questions that I have, because we've already wasted 20 minutes. But Jessin, what did you read?
Okay. Well, I wanted to jump in real quick because I was listening as I was like, internet work. But I agree with Rachel. I never thought Reese was creepy, but I don't know if that's because I jumped in literally last year. So I was just like, villain vibes, feeling it, love it. I was just really feeling it. So I was just like, yep, par for the course for me. So I just wanted to jump in and say that. Okay. I reread it for only the second time, and it was lovely. It was enjoyable. It was just chef's kiss, top tier. Still pretty much my favorite. As of now, of SJM's books that she's written. So, okay, now we can jump in.
Yeah. We'll go through some of the viewers now too, because y'all who are watching, thank you, of course, for listening to us ramble. I will try to get to some of your questions. Ooh, sorry, I accidentally clicked on one. But just, that's exactly the same. We're also already dark romance readers as it is. Mm-hmm. So when there's the guy who is being like that, we're like, I'm looking at you. But
I had instant like, damn, he's fine vibes. Like just immediately when I was reading it for the first time, I was like, okay, because I liked Tamlin. I liked Tamlin when I was reading ACOTAR, and I was like, oh, he's really sweet and stuff. But then I was like, but like this guy's my type. I'm like, I feel like I'm cheating on him. But yeah, I mean, I was glad to hook up with him.
I loved him too. Like first time, I was like, he's a shady character. He's doing some shit. Bring it on. I'm here for it. Like, I was all down for it.
I fuck with that shit. I like that. Okay.
All right. Here we go. I'm going through these. V said, this is my first ever reread, and I enjoyed it more than the first time. Good. Morgan, I went through and annotated this time. Loved it even more. Love it. Wendy, I'm a rereader, and I love it more and more. And I also used the audio, and it just made it so much more. Yes. Loved it. The graphic audio is amazing. Yes. It was so good. First time reader, I love the relationship between Reese and Feyre, and now I can see what was missing with Tamlin. That's true.
Exactly. Absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah, there was
100%.
Oopsie. I felt this one was better produced. Oh yeah, I went back kind of a long ways. Loved it even more. Great. I went into the series completely blind the first time, and I was mostly confused when I read ACOMAF. This time, I truly appreciate it. Yeah, there's a lot. As trying to make an outline for this fucking book, there's a lot going on. That's fair. But that's the fantasy part of it too. Like, that's what goes along with the romance part of it, is even like this series does still tilt more towards fantasy than romance, even though the romance is my favorite part. Like, this is still, that's what we got. V, I appreciated everyone from the inner circle more. Obviously, Faye Sander, absolutely outstanding in this book, but it was fun to be introduced to all the creepy creatures and the inner circle. Yes.
Agree.
V, I don't think I truly wrapped my mind around Tamlin's controlling nature until this reread, because I was fuming when he questioned what he did to her. Yeah. Ooh, we're gonna get there. Oh my god. Okay. Let me get through these people. I loved what Morgan said. This is the I fall for the villain.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
I'm gonna put that on a shirt. I fall for the villains.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Lola.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, he didn't touch her below the waist. But, I mean, touching below the waist isn't just what assault equals, though. So, Like
No,
how
but I
can you
understand
know
what she
you're
was
drunk?
saying. I think he stayed in like under the boob, like above the hip region. I think that's what she was saying. And I also was just kind of like, a true villain would like really be taking advantage. So I was already making excuses for him because I was like, there's more, isn't there? There's more.
I get it.
We're not supposed to think that he's evil, but again, being from the point of view of someone who isn't looking to make excuses, you can say that he is an assaulter without knowing what's happening. An assaultee, a criminal, I don't know what the fuck. Okay, let us get started. So the way that I broke this up, Jessen, I don't know if you heard me say this. We're going to have a potty break at like the hour mark. We're taking
that sounds perfect.
Because I don't want to rush us. Yeah, I don't want to rush us, but we're gonna take an intermission.
Cool deal.
Because the way I broke this up is I did an outline basically. So we're going to start with part 1 with the House of Beasts, and we're going to dive right into what we have at the beginning. And let's talk about Feyre's PTSD, how we think that Sarah portrayed it. I mean, whatever you want to mention about it, but we're going to start with what Feyre is left with now. How many months later are we? It's 2, 3.
I think
3.
Yeah.
Everyone knows. There we go. 3. So yeah, this time
Sarah
we'll start with
does.
Oh, Melissa, I messed with you. Boom. No, I'm just kidding. You could go if you want to.
No, go ahead, Jessen. Go ahead.
Okay, we're gonna go.
No, I was not talking.
No,
I'm not talking. You go.
Do you? Okay. Go, Melissa.
Somebody go.
I'll go, man.
Go.
Okay.
Sarah does PTSD really well.
Yes. That's a great statement. Yeah.
Like
I don't know what else to say about it.
She does, and you see it in multiple characters, but in Feyre's really, you feel it. Like you feel her trauma of like being under the mountain and like all the moments, especially like listening to the graphic audio. Like you feel when she like freaks out about things like, oh no, don't leave me here.
Yeah.
And
the amount of having to listen to vomit, I was like,
oh, I know.
I hate hearing vomit. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna throw up. Oh no.
I'm kind of glad I didn't do the graphic audio now because I don't know what I would have done with that.
It was just the beginning.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
For going like, and you're like
gross
and everything. I was like, okay, we don't need this.
Ooh,
Flashing in the toilet and stuff. But
I'll just fast forward when I listen to the audio.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, no, no.
Yeah, be prepared.
I mean, I don't personally have PTSD, so I can't talk as of the accuracy of it, but I can say that I do have anxiety, and the graphic audio especially sparked my anxiety. And when she sees things that remind her, it's like almost like her rational brain just shuts off and she just goes straight into those memories that she has. It's like she goes from the moment that she's in straight into those memories, and it's just a constant loop in her head of the things that have gone on. And I think it was so insane. It made me anxious. Even though I've read this so many times, the graphic audio, I mean, it's just really good. I think she does a good portrayal of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It was my turn. I know a lot of people that suffer from PTSD, family members, so I deal with it on a fairly regular basis, and I think she nailed it. I mean, PTSD shows in so many different forms for different people, and I think for Feyre, just the chaos of what she went through, plus she's in a brand new freaking body on top of it, so she doesn't know how to really deal with anything that's going on. She's not even dealing with her PTSD in a way she knows how to deal with, because she doesn't know how to deal with it because she's in a completely different body. She's a whole new person. So she's learning all these different things all at once, and I think Sarah just nailed that on the head. I said when I was reading this book, I put it down a few times. I'm like, well, this is really fucking dark. This is not what I was expecting, like at all. Walking into this book, I'm like, okay, well, so much for love and romance. When I was in the beginning parts of this book, she did a good job with it. I have zero issues with the way she portrayed it and how she handled it, and I think she did a great job.
And it's interesting too, like the different places her PTSD is coming from. because with Under the Mountain, I think of like two main things. One is just the claustrophobia and just how awful it was in that place, but also the fact that she had to kill those fae. That is a huge thing for her. And she even says at one point, like, kind of like, why not me? Like, you know, like, why did I get to survive, you know? And then also, as we get later and later into the book, her PTSD from Tamlin. And so it's interesting when PTSD comes from different places, I feel like that also changes like how she's trying to cope with it as well. So I think that Sarah also did a good job with that, because I feel like usually in books, the PTSD is coming from just one situation, one place. And so it's just interesting to see like a multifaceted PTSD like this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think Sarah does like the 7 stages of grief for this with the PTSD.
Yeah.
You see her go through the like denying it and the like grieving in it and being angry, you know, like we see her go through a lot of those. But also, you know, someone's already mentioning it. I want to talk about this because, and there's someone else's PTSD we're going to talk about later on too, because we get to see PTSD when it's very fresh, like literally in the beginning. And then there's someone whose PTSD is, you know, very old, like the PTSD is very old. And it still can come up, you know, but there's different things that trigger it when it's in this, it's fantasy world. So 100 years old. Whereas when it's 3 months, you know, like maybe you're not triggered every day, but it can still come back, you know? So, someone was mentioning this and I definitely do know. And because we're dealing with a couple who both has PTSD, but for different reasons. And for, you know, we're in Feyre's head. So of course her PTSD is what we're in and we can only see it from her side. And I'll be honest that the first time I read this book was 8 years ago, seven years ago. So in the first time I read it, I didn't have any grace for Tamlin's PTSD. I was like, you were an abusive motherfucker. I hate you so much. And yeah, I still hate him at the end of this book, but for a different reason than the way he's treating her in this. Like, different reason for disliking him. But one of the things that I always try to be conscious of when I do a reread is like, his PTSD is he didn't protect her and he watched her die in front of him. So therefore that means don't go anywhere. I have to hold you here. And that's literally an opposition of what her PTSD is. So there's a lot of compassion that I have for him and, you know, that. But I'd love to hear what you guys think on him and if your opinion of him has changed through that, at least for the PTSD part, not for.
I find it really interesting because when I was reading ACOMAF for the first time, it's not that I didn't hate Tamlin for it, because I was more like sad because I could see what was happening. And I was just kind of like, oh my God, he's handling it all wrong. This communication is just not happening. Like they're both suffering, but he's not hearing her cry for help. And she's not understanding because she's so deep in her own grief. And since we're in her point of view, you feel it more from her. And we experience, you know, as an audience in ACOTAR, everything that she experienced. Like I remember my heart pounding with what she was going through, all the trials and stuff. So, and I guess like for this reread, I was more paying attention to that. And I just saw the way that his PTSD, like how he was coping with it and how they were just polar opposites and it just butted against each other. So, I mean, I have a little bit more grace, like you said, upon reread, because you can look up on it a little bit more objectively. And I just know that they're not meant to be together. And it's kind of just sad because relationships sometimes end and it's just kind of tragic that it had to end that way. And yeah, that was
did you guys see my mother?
Your mama she doesn't have
could have said hi.
See, the funny thing is I have been begging that bitch to read this damn series for years. And now she's sitting in the living room. Supposedly, sorry, I call my mom a bitch. She calls me a bitch. We have that relationship. Anyway, so I've been begging her to read this series for years so she can be a part of this conversation, but she has not read it yet. So,
never mind.
Sorry for the intro.
No, you're fine. I wanted to piggyback off of Jasmine real quick before I let someone in. Like, yeah, having more grace for him. And I also think that no spoilers for the future, but I think we can track Tamlin's stages of PTSD and grief through future books too, specifically a novella that nobody really likes but is there, but also still has some important things happening in it. And we still get to see different stages that he's going through too. And it doesn't make the hurt that you put onto other people better. Like, you still should have to deal with your stuff. But in my opinion, like, it does like explain, even though it doesn't excuse. Feyre's just not in a place where she should have to deal with the explanations, you know? So we just need fairy therapy.
As a first-time reader, I went into Tamlin's PTSD as you're being a douchebag. Like, I did not appreciate the way he was handling anything. But there was one scene where she was talking to Lucian, and Lucian said, they were having a conversation, and she said, Lucian, he let me go out before when there was danger all over the place, and now it's, now it's not okay, and I literally just did all this stuff. And he's like, well, that's because he cares about you now. And it stopped me in my tracks. I'm like, because he cares about her now? He cared about her before, but that's when my mindset for him started changing, because I realized he saw the extent that she went to for him, and he didn't go that far for her. And so this is his way of kind of repaying her, saying like, look, I know we're in peacetime, but we're still not out of it yet. And so now it's my time to actually do what I should have done under the mountain, but I didn't have the balls enough to do it. So I kind of backed off of him a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, you can have understanding without like being like, yeah, that was totally okay.
No, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And plus, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I've read other books besides the series where the hero is kind of acted in a similar way, and I've really enjoyed it. And I think that Sarah wrote it in an interesting way that makes you. I mean, when the first time I read it, I was viscerally angry at Tamlin, but also I was more focused on Feyre and what she was going through, and that was pretty much all I cared about because we were in her head. But the more that I reread it, the more that I can see that he has his own issues that he's unable to talk about or not comfortable with talking about, and he's just not there yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he just deals with it in a different way, I guess.
Well, and you're right, Joe, because think of this. If there was no Rhysand, and heaven forbid that be true, if this was a love story between Tamlin and Feyre, this could still happen in a book where he treats her this way, he pushes her away, he does this. We have a third act breakup, and then they both go to therapy and get help. And
Yeah,
exactly.
Like, so it's right. Like there are heroes who are written this way, and we would be able to forgive them because they would go through their shit and we'd work it out, and that's not the story that this one is. But that's why, like, I think it's hard to completely condemn him for this, because he's bleeding too. And I do think he has tons of shame. That's why he's like tightening his fist literally to the worst possible way. But okay, we're moving on. I've literally done 2 topics. This is what happens. All right, everyone is jumping in. Let's talk about this. Unsuspecting,
I think Ianthe is the one that we should be absolutely hating.
Absolutely. I agree, Joe.
Disgusting.
Disgusting behavior. I don't like her.
She's literally a molester and a rapist who's doing it in the name of God. Like, Sarah literally does like the dirty priest trope, but it's a dirty priestess who's doing everything in the name of God, but it's really so she can
power grab. Yeah, absolutely.
So she can bone hot fairies.
She was disturbing. She was disgusting. I thought like, oh, maybe Feyre's gonna get a friend, and then
Right.
Nope. She's that girl.
Diminishing, belittling, trying to put her in a tiny little box, like not expecting anything out of her. Yeah, sorry, literally everyone.
Everybody's like, we can skip her.
She takes. No, go ahead.
Feyre said, "I want no red," and what does she do?
She did it anyway. She
Yeah.
did it anyway. What a bitch. Jesus. Okay.
She literally takes both. She takes both Tamlin and Feyre's like weakness to use it for her own power.
Absolutely.
And so like the issues that the two of them like, we don't even fully see. Like, this is why someday, please, Sarah, goddess Sarah, give us a Tamlin POV. Like, I do, honest to God,
I would love that.
I would like Tamlin POV because I just know that the things that she's whispering in his ear are 85% of the problem why it builds up and he snaps the way that he does.
Mhm.
Like
I think so, too.
85%, it's that. You know, like his tendencies are already there, like they are, and they're fucked up. But she's just saying, like, you gotta protect her. She's weak. They're gonna come after her. Like, it's her whispering in his pocket.
What if this happens? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-mm.
Yep.
She's horrible.
Buddy. Yeah, that's it. It's true, man. It's
Yeah, bitch can die. Exactly. Bitch can die. There you go.
Yep. I think so. This is one of the like spoilers that like I always knew, because I think I said this, like, I knew everything that happened in the first two before I read them. That's just what I do. But there was no third book, so I just was like, wow, now I'm fucked with everybody else because I'm stuck here. That's why I like the series are over before I start reading them. Give me Between Wrath and Mercy, where we gotta wait how many years for these. But anyway, so I knew that she ended up being like the bitch, you know, like I knew that, but I didn't realize, you know, that she was a rapist, basically. She's disgusting.
Yeah. Yep, she's the worst.
To be understood.
She's awful.
Yeah, we'll get to that, Lola. I mean, it may be several hours from now, but we'll get to what.
I made sure I had my laptop plugged into the wall so it wouldn't die on me.
Oh, I know. I'm plugged in. We're ready. She made it hard for Tamlin and Feyre to communicate. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
Tamlin's not great at communicating anyway. Like,
No.
that is one of the things, that was one of his bad traits from the first book that gets amplified by his PTSD.
Yeah.
Is like, you know, oh, Stacy.
No spoilers.
A fair assumption. That is a fair assumption. Okay, but again, we're gonna keep pushing. So we've had that a little bit. We're seeing how sad it is for Feyre. She's in the fucking red dress and she starts walking down the aisle. And then what happens?
I knew it. I
Oh.
remember reading this scene. It was so
Hello,
good.
Farrah, darling. God damn. Fuck.
Ooh.
See?
So
Oh,
happy.
you
Just
just
creep this little girl in here.
Oh.
Yeah, I love that. That's my favorite one because I'm like, oh Lord, that's such a good scene.
It's
Oh.
the bestest. It's fantastic. And he is the perfect reason for her to get out of it, because she was going to run anyway. And now he's like, you can blame it on me. It's fine. You can blame it on me.
I love that for him. He's just
I
kind of like,
do love
we're
it for
going
him.
to do what you need to do, and I will be the villain. I will be the bad guy. And I love
Oh my gosh, that is literally, he should have that on a t-shirt. And it's like he's the Darkling, but in a better way, where he's like, fine, make me the villain. But it's actually a good thing. The Darkling actually is evil.
Yeah.
But like, he's just like, fine, make me the villain. It's cool. I've been being the villain for 60 plus years.
I was in a car when I was reading this part of the book because I was waiting for my daughter to get a softball practice. And the windows were down because it was a nice day, obviously, and finally. And I'm reading it, and I literally was this, at the fucking wedding?
Yep.
Yes! And there's people around me, and they just kind of go like this. That I'm like, I don't even fucking care. I don't even care. It was great. It was great. Oh, yes.
You want a book recommendation? I've got one for you right here.
Exactly. Take it. Finish yet.
Literally. I've said this when we talked about Rowan, you know, him being one of my like archetypes. I love a wedding that gets disrupted. Like,
Yes.
literally love it. Love it. I've read a lot of books this year that have disturbed weddings in them. And then I read that and I'm like, oh, wait, Jen, it's in here. And I'm like, oh my gosh, didn't even know.
That line. I've seen that on TikTok so many times, people like repeating that line, hello, Farrah, darling, like in the accent and everything. I never got it. I never got what was cool. It's just a really hot guy saying, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty guy. Nope. Now I totally get it. And those TikToks mean so much more to me now.
And I also think what makes it even better, like him just like coming in at that perfect moment, is just like I felt it so much when she was like frozen and she was like, somebody please help me, save me. And I was like, he's gonna save her, he's coming. And I was so excited, and like it was just so perfect. It was just so perfect, and I loved it. And I was just like, oh, this is gonna be amazing, isn't it? Like I knew from that point on that this book was just gonna be my book, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we have, I love that Susan did this comment, because the thing where, you know, I just said a few minutes ago about how I really wanted to give Feyre space, because I think that Feyre can be very annoying to people when we just want her to give into him, but that's not going to happen from what we've just seen. You know, like in book one, she lives through him hurting her arm, making her make a deal, holding, you know, like she's lived through those things. So even though her mind is like, I need this to stop, and she knows that he's helped her, she can't just accept that, you know, she can't just accept it. And he's literally like, you're literally screaming at me to save you. And she's like, well, that doesn't mean you actually should have done it. And it's like, what? Like, you don't even make any sense to yourself. You're so fucked up.
But it's also that the whole like Tamlin, just like Rhys is evil. Like, you know, she was kind of, she knows nothing about the world of the fairy. She has very little history between everybody. So she's just been told this is the bad guy also. So she's like, on principle, I can't, you know, I can't be grateful to you.
Yeah. Right. Well, and she knows that he got extra privileges. He got extra privileges with Amarantha. That's what she thinks, that he got to have more of his powers. Like, she doesn't know the backstory. So, of course, she's listening to Tamlin. She loves him. So.
I love that she threw her shoe at him.
Regardless, it's a great scene. It's one of my favorites.
Melissa, we're all going to stop talking till Melissa can go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I love that she throws the shoe at him, and he's like, you threw your shoe? She's like, yeah, threw my shoe.
Interesting. I love that. I'm like, what does that mean? Interesting. What is that?
Oh, I know. When he keeps saying that, yeah.
Yeah. He just finds this all fascinating. Her behavior, her lashing out. Like, it's better than just, you know, feeling nothing and not reacting.
Yeah. I love it. I literally cried. It's so good. It's great. It's such a relief, you know, like it just feels like, I don't know, when he takes her away and she doesn't have like a choice, kind of, it's such a relief, because that's what she needs, is she needs him to take the choice. But he also only did that after she'd been like begging him to in her own head. So it's not like he's not actually taking a choice away, but she's choosing to see it that way. I don't know. It's so many layers. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
many
all right.
of gray.
Yeah. So now we go to the Night Court and we meet our first inner circle friend. We meet Morrigan. What was everyone's first impression of Mor? I really tried to pay attention this time. So what do we think of her? His cousin, who just extra special.
I feel like the immediate reaction is like how different she is from Ianthe, because Ianthe was her first female friend in this world. And then now we have Morrigan, who is like the opposite in every way possible. She's so cool.
I didn't know what to think about Morrigan when I first met her. Like, I kind of held back my reservations for her just because of my experience with Throne of Glass and meeting new female characters. Like, you have to wait for a while to figure out, you know, where their stance is. And so I'm like, okay, I only know about the Night Court what Tamlin has told Feyre. I am literally in Feyre's shoes, knowing nothing. So I'm like, maybe she is kind of like this sick, twisted baddie. So I kind of reserved my feelings until later on for her. When on my initial reaction for her, I just was like, oh, she's being super sweet, but she could also be super sweet because she might be super bad at the same time, and you can do that. So
I find that so interesting, because I didn't have that. I didn't read, you know, the Throne of Glass series before. Like, this is my first Sarah J. Maas exposure was ACOTAR and ACOMAF. So I was just like, I went in and I think I was kind of looking for her to have that friend. And when I first met Morrigan too, and it's like something that she reflects on later, it was more of like the attitude in which Moore treated Reese. And I was just kind of like, like this is somebody who's not afraid, like they're irreverent. So that just bodes a lot better from what we were seeing with like Lucian and Tamlin. Like Lucian's too afraid to speak up with Tamlin, trying to let him do his thing. And like Morgan's just like, she's not afraid to be a little irreverent. And I was like, okay, I'm going to like her. I really like her.
Yeah, piggybacking off of that, I think that my first interaction with Moore, like I've talked to her in my life anyway. My first meeting with the Morrigan, I really liked her because it's almost like a complete 180 from what Feyre's experienced in the Spring Court, where, like you said, Lucian is afraid to say anything. Tamlin has these set rules where everything must happen in a specific order. Everybody has their place. But then the second that Morrigan enters the thing, she's like, well, that went well. You know, kind of challenging the High Lord. And, you know, I think that's so interesting to see the completely different dynamics between the Spring Court and the Night Court just by that one little line by Moore. I think it's great.
Yeah. So then, and I'm going to go a little quick through this part because I want to get on to part 2 here. But he gives her an assignment during the week. This is one of my favorite allegories. I bring this up all the time when comparing Tamlin and Reese. Tamlin, he gave her a library and offered to write letters for her to her family. But Reese teaches her how to read. And I fucking love that. And he does it in a way so she doesn't like, but he also calls her out too in a great way because she's like, she's ashamed. So she's like, no. And he's like, you almost fucking died because you couldn't read. Why are you being so stubborn? Like, literally let me help you, you know, like you're gonna need this. And, you know, yes, it's for his own purpose, as we'll learn later on. He needs her to be able to read, but also he's literally opening up the world to her. I fucking love it so much. He's literally opening part of the world to her by teaching her how to read.
What's interesting too about that is that I remember reading ACOTAR for the first time. While I was reading that, I was like desperately hoping for a scene when Tamlin would teach Feyre how to read, because I was like, oh my God, that'd be so cute. They could bond over that, you know, and then that never happened. And so then reading ACOMAF for the first time, I was like, yeah, finally.
You got it. You got the scene.
Sarah knows the hero has to be the one to do that. That's why Tamlin couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an absolute sucker for the scenes where somebody is teaching someone how to do something. Somebody is learning how to do something. So those little tidbits, and plus the things that he writes, the little sentences, they're designed to get a rise out of her. Some sort of emotional response. And she immediately clicks into that, even though she's so just absent emotionally in every other part of her life. Reese is like, you know what, I'm gonna pick at her a little bit and get her to feel something.
Morgan's jumping on it. Like, she needs high emotion to be able to use her powers, literally.
Yes.
Like, her powers are going to be actually the next thing we start to talk about. But like, literally, he's getting her fired up, and he's empowering her, because when she gets pissed or she gets like whatever, like that's when things start flowing. And she's literally been so depressed, she's not able to even try anything. Like, she hasn't been able to try.
It's like the polar opposite response that Tamlin did. Tamlin's like, you went through so much. I don't want you to have to lift a finger. Like, I don't want you to have to worry or do anything. And it was a bad response, obviously, for Feyre. And like, he does the exact opposite. He's like, I'm going to be around you. I'm going to make sure that you're not alone. I'm going to give you your time alone, but I'm going to make sure that you're not like wallowing in grief. And I don't want you to get stuck there. And I just really love it. It was just so exciting. And of course, I think cheeky heroes are, you know, my faves.
Tamlin does give her paint, though, right? Like, I mean, again, he's not a horrible dude. He does nice things.
No.
I think he says something about her reading as well. Like, he does something to do with it, but he doesn't like push it when she's kind of like embarrassed. She like
he backs off.
Kind of the difference. Like because he offers something.
I want to say he offered to help her, but she was embarrassed to have him teach her, so she didn't want him doing it at all.
That's right. Because like he does offer those things out of like kindness to her, you know, but she's like, oh no. And so he gives up. Whereas Reese is like, you're going to be stupid if you can't read. You know? He's like, you want to die if you can't read? Like, you need to know this. It's embarrassing, you know? And
Vera's just the type of person that needs that extra push, you know, someone to challenge her, and she challenges him right back. It's just their dynamic works better. It just works better.
Yeah.
Plus, I think that it really worked because for a lot of those things, Reese didn't give her a choice. And even though he adamantly tells her that she has a choice in the most important things, with the reading, he didn't really give her a choice. And I feel like where Feyre was emotionally, mentally, just within her journey at the beginning of this book, she was kind of lost and didn't really know what to do. And so Tamlin giving her the things that she used to enjoy, he doesn't really understand that she did those things because she was happy. That was how she expressed like the happiness. And so Reese literally not giving her a choice, saying, you know, you're going to be stupid if you don't learn how to read, it kind of gives her a direction to go in. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I agree. I like that.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, we love it. So then what I want to get into. So that's the first week. We go back. Immediately, Tamlin's interrogating her. We know this happens. I'm going to keep us moving on. I know that we could dig into that. But what I want to get to now is, I actually don't have a card for this one, but the first times her powers are peeking through. And there's specifically two kinds of powers that happen at the same time that I want to talk about. I actually made a little cheat sheet of all the powers because I wanted to make sure I have everything right. But the first two that we see are when she starts a fire on the table, as well as when she slips into Lucian's mind. I believe those are at the same dinner that happens.
Yes.
So, and those powers are Autumn and Night Court that we see first. And yeah, I don't know if we have things to comment on. I just wanted to mention them, but if anyone wants to comment, that's fine. But just wanted to.
Well, I mean, it kind of makes sense. Like those specific powers would manifest then because she's like just so like I feel like she wants to understand like where Lucian and Tamlin are coming from because she just kind of like I don't understand why I can't do these things, and so slipping into somebody else's mind, she's literally trying to understand like what's happening, you know. And then like the fire, I mean, obviously fire and rage and stuff, you know, she's getting fed up with it. So I loved that. I was just so excited. I was like, oh God, she's gonna do some cool things.
I love when she realizes that she's in Lucian's mind. She's like, oh shit. Oh, I didn't want to be here. She's like, I'm looking at myself. Him. Like, I hope he doesn't like, and then she's like, I hope he didn't realize that I did that. Like,
when does this happen, or does he share it with her? Isn't it when he's like,
she slips later in the book, she slips into his mind because early on, he's just trying to teach her how to you know, put a wall up.
Yeah.
He'll let her in sometimes.
She becomes like his shield to get through. Yeah.
Because she gets in and he's like, now I could trap you here. You need to be careful. So it's not an accident. When it's an accident, I believe it's when he has a nightmare.
Yes.
There's an accident, but
there's an accident. She slipped in when they were at the painting shop in the Night Court. She accidentally did it because that's when she saw what she really looked like for the first time, how gaunt and pale and everything. That was I think wasn't that an accident?
Yeah, I think that was an accident because he started talking about how
could be
how his shields might think that since she has a piece of his power, they might think that she is like him and let her pass. You know,
I don't know if that was before or after he let her in and he could trap her, though. I don't remember if that was before or after that.
Either way, it's the same power still. I'm just trying to track when the powers are showing for the first time. Showing those who are showing, but she uses that multiple times. So also, I think it's on the first time he's telling her what is going on, and she's obviously rejecting it this first time because she's still on Team Springcourt for now. But we're finding out what kind of our big issue is going to be, and he's sharing with her, sorry, I'm trying to find this other one, here it is, what the dangers are and everything. And she's kind of just like, yeah, whatever, why we got to worry about this stuff. And it's like, you know, that's kind of going to be a big deal if that happens. So, and he also wants her to find out if Tamlin will help the Night Court if they need it. So that's
I
what we find
understand
out.
her reaction though of being like, okay, like what? Because like they just went through this horrible thing. Like, can't we just like be at some kind of peace for now? Like, you're telling me like
I need a
right
minute.
away
I need
that this war is coming, and we just basically went through a type of war. So
Right.
like what?
Yeah. But I believe he makes a point too. He's like, y'all, Amarantha was the general. All that she was able to do, that 50 years was just a couple of weeks for Hybern.
Yeah.
Our unending like pain for those 50 years, that was nothing.
Right.
We need this. And Feyre's still kind of just like, no, like literally no, I don't want to.
Because it's the worst that she's experienced, you know,
Right.
like
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of like crazy when you think of like the timeline of all of this.
Mhm.
Like it's been like no time at all that she's had to get used to all of it.
Right. Well, and I mean, he makes the point though too. He's like, he wants to take the mortal lands. That's your family. You know, he's trying to make a point with this. And then when she goes back home, isn't Tamlin just kind of like, we don't need to worry about that. It could be.
Yeah. He blows
He's
her
like,
off.
Oh yeah, he's in denial.
Yeah. Okay, so then I feel like it's important to touch on what we see happen with the tithe. And just this whole situation with, it's time to get this started back up again, even though like his people have barely had a chance to even like grow anything or do anything. They're still supposed to bring in their tithe. And it's another thing that the consort could be helping with, that Ianthe's like, oh, you don't gotta worry about it. Just quiet. Go ahead, Jessamine. Sorry.
No, I just think this was the first time I felt very unsympathetic towards Tamlin.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was just kind of like, oh, I can't even see like your point of view at this, you know. I was just kind of like, this is pretty like terrible. You know, and like I mean, to an extent I get it, but also it just like goes to show you like this is how this particular court is run, and so it just gives you a little bit more information on like, you know, I don't if it started with like his dad and that's how it's always been run and stuff, but still, I mean, like he carries on, like he doesn't have that empathy for certain creatures and stuff like that. So I mean, it was a little bit eye-opening moment, but also hopefully something that he can grow on in the future, because like I would like him to be redeemed eventually.
Yeah.
And I think it also like goes into his PTSD a little bit more, because when you think about like him going into kind of a rock bottom at this point, or maybe getting to a rock bottom, and so he just can't see beyond like tradition and like what he knows. And so I feel like for him, he's like, this is what we've done for years and years and years. Like this is just how it is.
Get back to normal.
Yes.
Back to normal.
Let's get back to normal.
This is like, if we pretend everything's normal, it will be normal. I'm like, that's not how it works.
Well, and I think it's setting up a very powerful contrast, because, you know, very shortly we're going to see Rhys's people and how much they love and adore him. And there's no fear.
And the sacrifice.
Like there's no fear of him. They just love him. And so all these things, I love it, but it's awkward. And then we have a very important, like, something I love in fantasy books, specifically in fantasy books. I love when someone does a favor for someone and then it will get paid back later. It's literally one of my favorite things.
Yes.
In fantasy books.
Because you never know when it's going to pop back up. Like it can pop up that book or like 10 books down the road. And it's
right. And I mean, luckily for us, it happens in the same book. But I love it that she helps out this water wraith, and then Alice is her person who's like, nope, she's probably going to waste that right away, but you have a favor that will be paid back someday. And she's like, yeah, whatever. But also, I really enjoy. Oh, sorry. Nope, it's okay. Just 1 second. I also love what Candace said, because she's like, it's the first chance that Feyre's really standing up to him and like in front of people.
In public.
Behind it. And she knew that it was the right choice to do. And I liked seeing that. So go ahead, Jackie. Sorry.
When the tithe came up, like it kind of like a gut feeling that this was going to be a moment for Feyre, because, you know, what tithes are, and she came from such a poor background. I can totally see her, why she stood up for this. It's just like, and the fact that Tamlin didn't get that from the start, didn't discuss it with her, nothing like that. This was the moment that I knew that I was like, okay, this relationship, despite Reason, even if he wasn't here, this is not going to fucking happen. This was a no-go. This is doomed. It's not come back unless somebody does a complete 180, and Tamlin was not going to do that. So I was, at that point, I was like, let's wash my hands. Let's move on. Let's get out of here. Like, Tamlin's done. Like, that's a base thing for her, and he didn't freaking get it.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's seen where she was. Like, he's seen this, and he made moves because he knows that she worried about her family, you know, and he made moves to, you know, help them and stuff. And he should have seen that this wasn't going to go down well, and he just was refusing to see that. So that's definitely bad on him, and that's why I was just kind of like, should have known better.
Well, and then we find out that Spring Court is literally the only court that still does a tithe.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's very interesting.
Yep. I mean, sorry, which sentence I was going to say? Think about it. I was going to say, oh yeah, this is a part of him too that I feel like doesn't have anything to do with what he went through. It's him just being a dick. It's him being like a stuck-up noble in a way, where he was like, this is how it is. We take this. The people owe us this. And if they don't, they get punished for it. Where Reese is like, I want to make sure my people are fed. They give to me by doing beautiful things. Like, they give to me by their music and by making good food and by doing this and whatever. And like, I put my money back into them. Like, that's what I do. Like, that's how I take care of them, is like, they keep my city thriving and I protect them. That's like, I'm a high lord and I'm a servant. I'm not a high lord and I get praise. And, you know, that's the very difference between, I'm even skipping ahead a little bit. We're almost there. The difference between like the way Valaris is and the way the Court of Nightmare is. Like, in the Court of Nightmares, he has to do what all the other people expect of him and the way it is. And Valaris is his true court and the way he wants it to be. Someday in all of the Night Court. But he can't have it be that way. Because there are still the creatures and the creepies that want to still be able to be this way. And so it's like, fine, you can have the Court of Nightmares, but this is precious. So let's see, someone has a question. If you didn't love Feyre, do you think you would care what happened to the humans compared to Reese in the Night Court? Great question. I don't think he cares too much. I think he cares in the fact that his court is like closest. But
it's a political strategical point for war, I think. That's the only reason he's looking at it.
Yeah, but he doesn't care about the people. He only ever he only ever had people crossing the wall anyway because of the curse. Mm-hmm. You know, like, his people didn't have anything to do with the humans before. So yeah, very interesting. Okay, so now we're getting right along to one of the most pivotal moments and the end of part 1 here, when we have this argument that builds up to Tamlin locking her in the house, and we get to see a couple more of her powers burst through when this happens too. But this is probably, this is one of the most intense moments in the book, in my opinion.
I agree.
Everybody else, they feel about this. I remember the first time I read this, I'll like never forget. This moment is always just the absolute betrayal. But then, like, further than that, watching her spiral into a panic attack.
Yeah.
I suffer from like visceral panic attacks. I have like anxiety. I don't have this. And Sarah was literally put me in one whenever I like read this. I like feel it. Like, I start sweating and I feel uncomfortable and I feel the deep betrayal where it's like, okay, now it doesn't even matter that I love you. Like, I can't rationalize this anymore. Like, it's over.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think this is such a dark moment, and I think that the thing that sticks out in my mind not only is Feyre's panic attack, but also when she watches Tamlin just walk away from her while she's banging on this wall, and Lucian knows, I mean, she can see that he's obviously not comfortable with this situation. Nobody's really comfortable with it, but Tamlin just walks away and they all just follow him.
Yeah,
and I mean,
Tamlin thinks he knows better, and I mean, it's just it's terrible. I hated.
Yeah. I mean, because
it was hard.
Yeah, because she's isolated already in her mind, and she's isolated with her PTSD. She's isolated when she wakes up in the middle of the night and pukes her guts out. But just watching them all just turn their backs on her and just follow his lead, I mean, that's just even further isolation. Just like, you know, she's definitely alone in this situation, and nobody's going to come help her, but they do. So
Yeah, I really thought Lucian might do something right here. I remember the first time reading it, I really thought that it was like going to be a step too far for Lucian at this point.
Yeah.
And I was sad, but also just like, you know, we'll get to it later. I like another confrontation that happens about that. So I'm satisfied with how it plays out.
Yeah.
And then isn't this after the whole thing where like Tamlin snaps and she throws up a shield?
Yes.
Mhm.
I literally was like,
They just ignore it. They're just like, that didn't happen.
Just 1 second. I want to comment on what Candace said, because this is another huge difference between the inner court, because they say it later. Like Rhys says, he's like, if I ever went too far, my inner circle would put me down. So you could, you know, he's like, they would stop me. I am not above anyone. Like, yes, I'm more powerful than them, but I'm not above them. So that's a huge thing in the power dynamic. But yes, Rachel, I realized that I totally forgot it because I was going to track the power. So she does an air shield.
Yes.
And that's day court. That's a power from the day court. And then when she has this like panic attack, she uses like the air around her again, I think, and then the darkness.
Yes.
Too, which is night court as well. Was there anything else in that one? I think it's those two.
I think that was it.
This scene was hard for me.
Yeah.
Just from personal experiences, I've had someone walk away from me during one of these like episodes, like panic attack, and it's fucking painful. Like, so I resonated with her like so much, because she thinks at this point that she still loves this man, and this man is her world. He brought her, he took care of her family, but she went and literally destroyed herself to save him, and the fucker walks away. This scene hit so close to home. It sucked for me to read this scene. And so how the scene resolves, that just, it made it all better, because I just like, okay, I'm good. There are still good things out there in the world. It was that this one was hard and completely solidified why I no longer like Tamlin at all. Like, I didn't like him at this point. Officially done. We're done. We're done. Tamlin can go kick rocks. I'm done.
I'm glad that this was the point where it was like we were done. Like Sarah Jo asked, okay, that's enough. Now we can say
yeah.
That was it. That's all we needed to experience.
Yep. And it, oh man, that thing hurt. I remember I had to put the book down after that one. I had to step away for about a little bit for that one. I was like, no, we're gonna go do something else now.
And the way that the graphic audio did it, because you could hear her beating against the shield.
Oh,
and oh man, it was so real. It just felt so real.
Yeah. I think my next time when I read these, I want to do the graphic audios, because I'm physically reading all of these.
Oh,
so I
it's
just want to do the graphic audios a second
It's
go
brilliant.
around.
It's so good.
It is brilliant.
It's
so
better
delicious.
as a reread anyway. Like, the graphic audio is better as a reread.
Yeah, I would say so too.
I know some people are doing it for the first time. That's great. I just for like soaking it all up. But I really love this moment Candace picked out, of course. So the way that the events go with this, which it took me a few times reading this book before I ever realized how like did it, but like comes and he punches through Tamlin's power, but then Mor is the one who physically walks in and is able to get to Feyre and take her, and she has to like walk through like the tunnel into like the Autumn Court, right?
Yes.
She has to go to the Autumn Court
next door,
and they're able to winnow to the Night Court. So Rhys can't have like intercepted with someone else's like mate, or it could start a war. But he just busts through Tamlin's power, and then Mor has to go in, putting herself at great risk. She physically walks in to save her. And what is cool about the graphic audio, like I said, Feyre's in the panic attack, and you just hear someone whisper, "You're free.
You're free.
Like,
you're free."
You cry so much.
It gave me
I also
chills.
really love that Alice was just kind of like, "Oh my god, yeah, please take her."
Yeah.
Like, I love that.
Alice loves her.
Yeah. Alice is like her supporter in the Spring Court.
Well, and
I don't think Alice gets enough
Feyre for saving her nephews, and she loves her, and she sees how bad it's been, you know.
Yeah.
And like she loves I think Alice like does respect Tamlin too, but she sees that he's too far gone too if he would do this to Feyre. So she's like, are you going to take care of her? And Mor's like, yes, I will. So
this is when I started liking Morgan, is this scene. This is when I was like, okay, I can get behind her. I don't think we're going to do a dualistic character on this one. I think she's the real deal on this one, because that was a big deal for her to walk in there, and take her.
Yeah.
So I was just like, yeah, okay.
I want to go to the Autumn Court. That's what's even bigger. She walks to the Autumn Court to do it. This Wendy, the second half of this, where she watches other people be able to go in and out, that's literally he literally codes it to her. It's just so sickening. Like, it's so.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to keep reading some of these. So I keep thinking he's hiding some serious shit from her, not just protecting her, but he's keeping her in the dark.
Yeah.
Yep.
Such an asshole move. Yes. Lots of people loving the audios. Just never have respect for him. That's totally fair. That's totally fair.
That's absolutely valid.
Like I said, I have like an understanding of him, and this is something I've said in secret. It's a big theory that I have for the world as a whole, but I hope that Tamlin gets a book someday. Like, I honestly do. I've said it. I think
me too.
He will go through enough shit that I'll be ready for him to have an arc. Or he could grandly sacrifice himself to save people. I'd be okay with that too. Where he finally goes far enough to save people. Where like Feyre had to do it and he didn't, but he would. Anyway, sorry. Theorizing very far in the future, but that would also be justice to me.
I would totally read a Tamlin book. I love alternate perspectives. Love it. It's one of my favorite things. So
yeah.
So
agree.
Just to finish off part one, because we're an hour into part one. We're doing good. So she arrives there. Rhys tells her what happened. He says, she's like, what do I do? And he's like, you are free to go, free to stay, but I will offer you a job. I will pay you the way I pay my people. If you'll help me with this Hybern thing, I think we're going to need your powers. And then he's like, but I have to go do some shit. And she's like, please don't leave me. And he says, this is it. I'm going to take you somewhere. And if I take you to this place, you can't tell another living soul because people will die. Can you do that? And she says yes. And so we go to the House of Wind, part 2, which is pretty amazing. It's a very cinematic first part, like ending to the first part. So we get to go see Valaris. Oh my gosh, how special. And it's just this like utopia of beautiful fae. And Feyre has a bit of a reaction that like a lot of people will have when they hear about it. Initially will be like, how could you have protected just this part? And that's something we'll find out more about how when we get to it. But it is a good question. It is a good question why Rhys was able to do this and nobody else, and those are some questions that get laid out at the beginning, is like, why was Rhys able to protect a place and nobody else was able to? It's because Rhys is the most powerful badass ever. But anyway, there's Rhys. Mm-hmm. And then we get to meet the inner circle. So let's say hello to Amren, Cassian, and Azriel. What did people think of them the first time / upon second time?
Well, I actually just wanted to briefly bring up what you were saying in the last subject about like this time around, I actually found myself getting irked like Feyre does about how the people of Valaris got to be protected and they didn't have to go through the under the mountain stuff. And I actually found myself getting annoyed too. And then Rhys was like, no, they're blameless. And I was like, damn, you're right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's true.
Like, damn it. Rhys, most powerful High Lord.
I love Cassian with all of my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Me too. I love Cassian more than Rhys. And I love him so much. So meeting him is just, it was like when him and Azriel are standing at the door, like smiling, like,
yes.
And I'm like,
oh my God, yes, come on. I love the Bat Boys. When
I got introduced to them, I was immediately thinking frat boys. This is going to be a hell of a ride. They're going to be partiers. Yeah, instead of rat and bat. But yeah, I was down for them. I didn't care really what their character arcs were. I'm like, I already know I'm going to love you guys because that first initial meeting, you were just I don't give a fuck. We can hear you talking about us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, let us in.
Yes.
They are so yummy, though. I think that they are so delicious. Not
Yeah.
only because they are just genuinely delicious, but also in the way that they interact with Farrah, just like right off the bat. They're not like tiptoeing around her, you know, like, oh, she's the lady of the spring court. They're like, come on
Yeah.
in, let's go eat some food, you know,
Yep.
let's
It's
go to
the lack of
Rita's.
formality. It's so
Yeah.
different, and it's so it's much more normal, I would think, for her. Like the lack of formality. She didn't grow up in, you know,
Mhm.
the type of court that Tamlin's running. And so I just feel like it's more familiar, more relaxed. She's able to not be like, oh no, am I putting a foot wrong or whatever? They don't care about that stuff, obviously, you know, and I really like that for her.
And I really love like the very different personalities we have between Cassian, Azriel, Rhysand, Amren, Morgan. These 5 people are very different from one another.
Opposites.
And the way that they have this found family aspect is,
Yes.
it's everything.
Yep. Yep.
I mean,
And then-
Jen's shirt says it all.
I know. I love my and then we have Amren, who is his second, which immediately we get pointed out that like she's your second, but she's a tiny woman. And Rhys is like, she's terrifying. You
Just wait and see.
is she even a woman? Like I mean, I think we get into that more in like a later book where like, I mean, Sarah was doing some things before anyone was doing some things, let's just say. I don't think Amren really like has a gender. I think if this was written now, she would be like fluid or
Absolutely.
something like that. Like she chose, she's like, I liked this one. It was like unassuming. So I picked this body to choose. And these people underestimate me and then they look into my soulless eyes.
Oh God, I want I didn't get it in the last the Dusty Shop update, but the bookmarks with the eyes and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's one with Amren's eyes, and I'm just like, I love it so much. I want it. I need it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're restocking on August 15th, I think.
I will set my alarm
Soon. I have it somewhere. I'll have to check. But anyway, they are all misfits. Yes, there's
They are.
I love it. The Night Court boys remind me of Rune's best friends. That's fair. Yep. Sarah does put together a very good group. Like in each of
a
her series.
motley group of people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
She puts together the outsiders every
Yeah.
time. You know, I like that about them. Yeah, I guess we don't know a ton about her yet, so we'll wait. But like Amren is the character in the series that I most see connection to other books for. So when we get to parts where we explain more about her, she's the one I think connects the most. And
Absolutely.
I find the most I find the most hints about other dimensions and other places when we talk about
in
it.
reference to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Because she will
The
say,
other languages,
Yes.
there are worse people out there. And I'm like, oh. So yeah. I got it.
and we're actually, it's literally the next part. So I'll go ahead and put it up so that we keep it moving here. But her literally refusing to go to the prison ever because she had, you know, she like either knows people there, has been there, or like knows it and everything. So the prison is very interesting. We find out that is actually sorry, I put the name of the prison because that's how I broke this up, but like the prison that he's kept in, or it is kept in, we don't know what it is, that is something that actually all courts can send beings to this prison. It isn't just specific to the Night Court, but it's housed within Rhys's land because he has the most of it.
I didn't understand that, so I'm glad you explained that because I was like, why is it geared to him, but like there's other people from other courts there?
Well, I also believe like the prison existed before the courts were split is the thing, and it just is in his land. And so High Lords can put people there. Rhys talks a little bit about like, I take it extremely seriously to put people in there or beings in there. It's not something you take lightly, because once they're in, they're never supposed to come out. It's a very scary place. So we, of course, have to go there. And it does take Feyre a couple times to be able to, because it is housed within a mountain. So we get one of these PTSD flashes. See what that looks like. of her going there and like not being able to go in. And what does Reese do? He immediately takes her home.
Exactly.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, he does.
Oh, I love that. It was such a small scene. Like, it was just like a few sentences, but it said so much about the future of what their relationship was going to be.
Yeah.
I loved it. I was like, yes.
Yeah. He's like, you say the word and we're gone. I mean, and he means it.
Exactly.
I mean, she says the word. She says the word, and he literally takes her back. And I think that means so much for their relationship. Also, I love the bone carver. They are so fascinating as just an entity. I just find them so delicious and just so interesting.
So we do a little bit more and shit, and then Amren finds out she's having problems going, and so she gives her a special amulet, which is literally just a trinket.
Yep.
That
I love that.
Power. I love that shit, and I love it because like Reese like stares at it and doesn't say anything about it because he knows that it's just something pretty that he bought for Amren, and he's like, well, if she gave that to you, it must be really important.
I love how like their inner circle, like, and I know it's because they've been in a circle for a long time, but they read each other so well because he didn't know she gave her the amulet, and he just played it off like he knew exactly the reason why she gave it to her. And so he's just like, okay, we're just gonna go with it. We're gonna pretend that this is actually gonna do something for you, even though you're walking with
Amren knows. Yeah, he's really kind of like Amren knows. It'll be
like you trust, like he trusts that you know Amren has some insight, and we're just gonna go with it.
Yep.
The bone carver is where that part that Rachel was talking about her, like Feyre saying, like, I wanted an eye.
Yeah.
That's the part
that when she said that she heard the snap. Did not see that. I don't know. Are we still in that same part, or is that another?
This is the bone carver.
I'm going to read a little piece here, not from the book, but to explain everything that happened there, because these are the parts that are like important to the story, but also it took me many times reading the book to know what the fuck was going on, because as I've said, fantasy stuff. So Rhysand takes Feyre to talk to the bone carver, blah, blah, blah. The carver confirms that Jurian is to be reborn using the eye that Amarantha had with her. The King of Highburn is collecting the pieces of the cauldron, like its feet, it's missing its feet, and the Book of Breathings, which the Book of Breathings is what can control the cauldron, and it's split into two pieces, and one piece is with the mortal queens, and the other piece is with Tarquin, the High Lord of Summer. And with it, when they get that, they'd be able to, as well as be able to control the cauldron, you can also use it to nullify it. And one thing that I will give a plus to the graphic audio for is they made me understand the Book of Breathings better than I ever have before, because that book was a creepy motherfucker talking to her, and I never understood it before. Like the same way that like the Surreal creeps me the fuck out in the graphic audio, the Book of Breathings, it's very clear that it is like, it's like a Horcrux. The way that it's like,
I thought the same thing.
Get back to its master or get back to it, and it's going to use you to get it there. Creepy. But anyway, I jumped a bit ahead. But anyway,
I'm sorry, I'm getting so dark here. It keeps changing. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Mine does it too. So anyway, so that's what we find out from the bone carver. Now we can talk about the bone carver. That's the important info we get.
Yeah.
How did everybody feel about it? I just wanted to read what it was.
Well, like I said, with the whole heard the snap, that just floored me because I was not expecting her to give up that information just yet. Like, I knew when they said a question for a question, okay, and then, you know, Rhysand pulled his little thing like, I have a knee injury that acts up in the winter. And you're like, you're a smart ass. I love it. But then she actually she lays it out. She's like, I heard the snap. I knew I didn't want to die. I was like, man, you just went through like years of therapy in about 2.5 seconds, and that shit was gold. Oh my God, that was awesome.
Yeah, I latched onto the part where she was describing, you know, she after the snap, she followed the bond, and I'm like, fated mates. I'm like, woohoo! I'm like, that's the only way you would have to do it. So anyway, I was like, I love that she's confessing it, and Reese is like, what?
Yep.
I
And
loved
she
it.
just
I loved
thinks
it.
She doesn't understand fully what that is. I love
And
Yeah.
she was
Yeah.
given a choice as well
Mhm.
when she was in that
Yeah, she said
darkness.
I could have.
She heard a voice like ask her, like, what do you want? Where do you want to go? Basically. That was so
Also, my main thing, the thing that I stuck to is that number one, the bone carver, all that they do is ask questions. They want to know about death. They want to know what death feels like, what
Yeah.
to expect. Is there peace? Is there another world? And I love that, number one. And number two, it makes me feel so sad because I feel like with all of those questions that they are just longing for that death, you know?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, it's the difference between an undying being and an immortal, because an immortal being can still die. It just won't die unless something causes it to. Whereas an undying, unkillable being would live forever. And then what's the point?
And I put Amryn in that same category
Yeah.
as the bone carver in that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, and we kind of know that the bone carver is just an entity because it appears different to everyone else. So you know it's like not really like a living. It's not really like a living.
Bogart. I'm just gonna keep making Harry Potter references.
They were. Jen, I completely agree with it. I was just like, I was hearing it, I was seeing it, and I wanted to know why she saw an 8-year-old boy. I do not know that connection.
You'll find out later.
Yeah, I was about to say. I
Oh,
remember having
stay
a theory when I first read it, and I was like, "Let's see if I'm right."
There's one
Stay
answer
tuned,
in book
Jackie.
3, and there's a definite answer in book 5. So
All right.
Oh, I can't
At
wait
least
to
it'll
get
get
to book
answered
five.
because that bothered me. That was like the one big open-ended question in this book. I mean, there was a lot of open-ended questions, but that was the one that was like, there's a reason for this, and I don't know what it freaking is.
And you
Because
will find out.
she's never been introduced to any children in the prior book. So I'm like, I don't get what this is.
Sarah doesn't fuck with people in that. Like, she will give answers to stuff for that. Like, if
I
she
find it interesting though that Rhysand just saw Jurian, right? Like he didn't see anybody all that interesting. I expected something more out of the bone carver for him.
Seems a little bit random.
It's just
I really thought he was going to see Tamlin. That's who I thought he was going to see. That's who I thought.
Or maybe
But you
his
don't
mom
see,
or his sister or his dad or somebody.
It's not like specific who you're gonna see though.
Yeah.
And there's no like real formula for it. It's kind of interesting. So anyway, okay, we must continue. We're gonna take a break in a little bit here, but we'll do a couple more of these. Okay, so then we have Feyre decides to start training both with her fighting skills as well as her magic. She's learning how to use her skills and like starting to work through some of her PTSD in different ways. And they're waiting to be invited to the summer court because first they're going to try to be like diplomatic about it, but they want to go get that half. And they also will want to meet with the mortal queens. But before we do that, which I had the order confused, but first we do this because we want to test out her powers before we'll go to the summer court. Because at the summer court, Rhys's idea is that because Feyre has a piece of everyone's magic, and he wants her to be able to like find that, and that's how they want to find the Book of Breathings, is because they believe she'll be able to like find Tarquin's magic that is like the curse around it, because if she has the powers of the day court, she'll also have curse breaker magic. Anyway, we're finding these things. Anyway, so to test out if she'll be able to do that, Rhys is like, hey, there's actually this piece of property that belongs to me that I lost it a long time ago. And it happens to be with this crazy witch in the woods. So let's go see if we can find it. So they go to the woods and we have the Weaver in the Wood scene. And what does everyone think of this?
That's another scene that the graphic audio made infinitely creepier.
Yes.
I want to listen to the graphic audio.
Yes.
just
I
for
haven't
this
never
one because
listened to the song before. I've never read the words of
It
the
is
song
so
before
good.
because I was
Me neither.
And the lady singing the song about, I was like, oh my god.
Sister pushing the other one and drowning. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
That
No,
was one of the
right.
creepiest
Love it.
lullabies I've ever read,
Yeah.
heard in my entire life. And most lullabies are fucking creepy because they all have really weird backstories. I don't know if you know that, but that one, I want to know what backstory that belonged to because that shit was creepy fuck?
Yeah, I think that there are two scenes in the entire series that have always like stuck out to me, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
The entire series, like I don't know why, like I stuck on this scene, like I felt it like viscerally while I was reading it for the first time. I had goosebumps, and I was just like, this is so cool. I loved it. And I'm not like a thriller person, so I guess it like really surprised me, but I like really loved it. And I also just like that like he wasn't really there to help her through it, like she was just going through it, and I was like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah, the suspense, and then when you find out what the house is made of, and like, what?
Yes,
What's
oh my
going
god.
on?
Oh.
She reminds me. Yeah, she reminds me. The Weaver reminds me of like a mix between like Hansel and the
Hansel and
witch from
Gretel.
Hansel and Gretel and like a Rumpelstiltskin type of character with just
Yes!
like
Yes!
with like melted fat and hair
Yes!
involved.
Oh,
Brody.
that is like
Can
perfect
you
combo.
imagine being covered in that shit while some
Oh,
crazy
no.
witches chasing you?
I
through a
could not feel
chimney?
clean for a very long time after that. Like I would no.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was
that
disgusting.
the climb, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh god, and then she's on the roof. I just about lost. I had sadly eaten chicken salad before reading that scene. That was a bad fucking idea. It's bad combo. Don't do that. Future reference,
Okay.
not
Okay.
future.
Okay, so interjection though. Does the Weaver witch woman remind you of any characters in Throne of Glass? Because this is a character that popped up to me that was reminding me of stuff.
The witch that Baba Yaga, yeah, the yellow legs, which she kills in the mirror. Like that's yes, very much reminds me of her.
Yes.
But this one was creepier.
Just to put it forward, could she be a Iron Teeth witch or one of the witches who got lost in another realm and has just set herself up as a creepy ass witch?
They did make a point. She did make a point to talk about her teeth. She mentioned her teeth like multiple times, how they were brown and kind of missing and stuff. She made a point to mention her teeth multiple times, and now that you bring it up,
rusted iron.
Yes.
Started
Yes.
over time.
Yes.
I did not even think about that. Or like filed
I
down
remember when I was
iron or
reading the books, she was like, hey, does Yellow Legs remind you of anybody? I'm like, no, what? I'm like, I'm forgetting. But whenever I read The Weaver, I was like, ah.
Well, you even told me you're like,
reference.
You were like, don't remind me of a character. I'm like, I just wanted to ask you a question. Okay, I guess I'll wait 6 months until you.
I was like, just wait until I read it. I hope I figure it out. Yeah.
Well, because the scene is literally so similar as when she goes to meet that person to find stuff out, and the place is like burning down or whatever, right? Is it burning or is it fall? I can't remember what's happening, but she kills that. It's away, and it's very interesting.
Lord have mercy.
Anyway, this scene was literally one that when I was setting up the read, I thought I wanted to point out. So I was very excited to read it because especially reading the details of it, she literally seems like one of the witches who's went crazy. She doesn't die. She's collecting people and eating them. That's literally like
and weaving their hair.
Yeah. And then if she's been there so long that her like iron teeth have like rusted maybe or something. Like, I don't know. I was just feeling it. Just want to point it out that maybe some things get lost here from other realms. So
yeah.
So anyway, and the item that she got was a ring.
I love we all kind of did this.
Which we don't fully know the significance of yet. But favorite is like, I got a fucking ring, not realizing the serious significance of this.
Right.
I loved it.
But it's great. Love that shit. Okay. So now we're able to go to the first time we go to Feyre's home, and we get to see how things are going for Nesta and Elaine. So, by the way, I just want to share this real fast. I was looking up some name meanings today, and I doubt Sarah fully meant that for everyone, because not everyone's name means something. But Elaine, this name means light and joy, is what the name Elaine means. And Nesta actually means messenger, which I don't have to dig super deep into that, but I thought it was very interesting that that's what that name means. I don't know why. I'm not fully as that. But I feel like there's something there in my head. Anyway.
Yeah.
So what's happening with our gals here? Elaine seems just so happy, just being a little homemaker now. Things are all great.
Still don't really vibe with Elaine, but yeah.
I completely agree. Listen, I completely agree. She's a mouse to me, and further events down the
and
book,
I
I don't understand that at all, and I hope it gets explained.
Like I like soft, timid characters. I mean, the only ones right off the bat that I could really bring up at the top of my head is Lisa Kleypas's softer heroines like Helen and Evie, and I'm all for that. But Elaine, just like, to me, is just, there's no spine, there's nothing there. Like, I want there to be more so badly, but Nesta definitely fair. At least is interesting, even if she's frustrating at times. Yeah. I think. Yeah.
I feel like Nesta makes up for the backbone that Elaine.
Oh my gosh, she got it all. She got it all.
She's like, if you're not gonna be a bitch, I'm gonna be a bitch.
Yeah.
No. And I remember the first time I read this, the first couple times that I read this, I absolutely hated Nesta. Elaine just kind of fell to the wayside, right? I absolutely hated Nesta. I thought she was a horrible, horrible individual.
Same.
But, we find out more information later. I'm not going to go into that. But, Elaine is just, she's lackluster. But I think that she's that for a reason.
That's a good word. I like that.
I feel like she's like that for a reason, and we just haven't gotten that reason yet.
Yeah.
But she is lackluster, if I'm being honest.
She just kind of like,
when it comes to Nesta, okay, I want to make sure Nesta is the oldest, right? Am I understanding that? Okay, she's the oldest, and Feyre is the middle, correct?
Yes.
She's the baby.
No, she's the youngest.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was trying to make sure I had that correct when I was reading this, because I was like, okay. But Nesta, to me, I hated her in the first book. I thought she was obnoxious. And in this book, I'm like, you know what? I don't really hate her that much, because she's pissed. I kind of understood where her anger was coming from. What I didn't understand was how polarizing Nesta and Elaine were. Like, Elaine is growing up with Nesta, who's an ice cold bitch, Feyre, who can be an ice cold bitch, but is kind of the middle of the two of them. But Elaine is like super sweet. I'm like, I don't get how that happens. When you're around people like that, something has got to rub off on you. But Elaine, nothing. It's just, I'm just gonna sit here and be a meek little mouse and stare at people. Like,
well, Anne put her head in the sand.
If it was her way of coping with, like, the whole loss of wealth and all that jazz, and it's just like, let's pretend everything's fine and dandy and whatever. I don't know, but hopefully we get some insight eventually into her character, because I'm not even like excited about shipping her with anybody, because I'm just like, don't care.
Further revelations if that further revelations are true, I don't understand that.
Right.
I don't. Right now I don't understand that at all. So
that's fair. I just like Nesta the first two times I read this. First two times I read the first three, because to be fair, the very first time I read it, I never noticed certain moments in the first and second book, where by the third or fourth time I was reading it, I was picking up on those things. So I was very excited for her book when it came along eventually, but I never noticed that she had broken the fog the first time. I just didn't, like I said, I missed stuff all the time. And that she's aware, she is aware of what Feyre did for them. She's just so pissed at their dad that she can't, she should take that being pissed at her dad and say fuck off to him and help her sisters. But instead, she stays so pissed at her dad and is like, I'm just going to be a bitch all this time. And that doesn't make sense to me, right? Because it's like, you're making your baby sister chop wood and make your food and get your stuff. And so it's annoying. And I love when Cassian's like, how could you let your little sister do this?
Yeah.
He compares it. Sorry, Justin, I'm almost done. I'm on a roll.
No.
When he's thinking in his head of he has brothers who aren't even his blood. They're all bastards together, and how he would die for them. And she has real blood sisters that she was just letting die, so he very much challenges that. So sorry.
No, I just feel like she gets like so hyper focused on a thing, and like she
Yes.
just like has blinders on, and she's so focused on this one thing that she doesn't see a lot of things around her. And I think that that's what Cassian's great for, to call her on her bullshit. But honestly, in this book, like I really didn't dislike anything that she did in this book. Like on my reread of ACOTAR, like I definitely understood her more, and I could see I hated her the first time. I was just like, I hope you die. And then rereading it, I was just kind of like, oh wait, I mean, like, okay, all right, I can see some good in her and all that jazz. In this one, she really doesn't do anything that I was just kind of like I hated her for or anything.
Yeah.
So
I still don't think she makes great choices for her.
no,
Of course
I mean,
not.
she's not like an easy person to get along with, but
I've said this many times in the last like year or so. I personally had a lot of problems reading bitchy, hard heroines for many years.
I still do.
And now, like, I actually have a big soft spot for them because I kind of see myself as that person a lot of times. So I like reading characters like that. So when I like reread this series like 2 years ago before Silver Flames came out, I was like, I like this character, and watching her like be broken by this and just purposely making people hate you, which we're not quite at that point yet, but purposely making people hate you because you hate yourself. So you think it's what you deserve. It's very interesting. So
Yes.
I feel like you had something traumatic happen.
Mm-hmm.
Very possible. Yeah. Also like Nesta, complex mommy and daddy issues both.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was telling when Feyre said she has such high walls to keep from caring too much. Exactly. This is true. There are some things that really softened me to her, for sure. So
Absolutely.
Nesta is so flawed, but I think she's probably the most representative of how real life people actually go through their emotions and anger. That is.
I relate to her a lot.
Yes. I like that, and like what Jen said too, like you have more appreciation for characters because now you see yourself in them, and like you have more understanding. And I do too, but the thing is I'm frustrated myself whenever I act in those ways. So like I'm so frustrated with the character because I'm just like, I hate when I do that, and I wish she knew better. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I still get frustrated. Yeah, I'm like, be better than me. Don't do what I do. And so I still get frustrated with
I also think there's something to be said. They're kind of like the Three Bears and Goldilocks situation.
Yes.
You have someone who's completely pissy. You have someone who's completely loving and always looking at the best and is this flowery, whatever. And then you have someone who's just like, I'm just going to get shit done.
Balance.
Right. And, like she still paints and has dreams of beautiful things, but it's like, I got to go chop the wood. So we're going to do it. So
yeah,
it's very interesting, the three of them. But Wendy, it's irrational. I am not making excuses for her at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely not. And that's why I, especially on like a reread time, I love when Cassian's like, you let your sisters suffer. You were the big kid. What were you doing? Like, you're trying to make your father feel shitty. He already feels shitty. What were you doing? It feels good to have Cassian say what we're feeling.
And then to piggyback on that, we've got the three personalities of Rhysand, Cassian, and Azriel, and how they fit with the three sisters' personalities.
Yeah. Yes. To the comment that says, why take it out on Farrah? I don't know about you guys' experience. My experience is you take out your worst emotions on the people that you care about the most because you know that they're going to be there. So I think maybe that was one way of Sarah putting that
also like
into the book.
Lane and Farrah dynamic,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's like Nesta, she's a bitch, but she knows Farrah. She knows Farrah's heart. She knows she's going to be there. She knows she's going to always come through in the end, so she can take whatever Nesta throws out at her. And I think that was kind of maybe like Sarah's way of doing that. Being the little sister, I kind of know what that feels like. So, I kind of can get that, but at the same time, I think Nesta kind of goes a little overboard sometimes. Just a smidge.
Yeah.
Maybe a big smidge.
Yep. Okay. And then the last little part that has to do with when we're in the human lands is that Rhys does something a little bit naughty here, and he uses Feyre as some bait for the adder. We get an attack from him, and of course we end up being okay, but she's a little bit pissed about that. It's like,
I think a lot of her like anger has to do with not knowing. He did not tell her. It's not that she was being held as bait. It's that it was kind of like a flashback to what she was dealing with Tamlin, because that's one of the main issues that she had with Tamlin is like, you're not telling me anything. I like, even in the narrative, she's like, oh, there's some nameless threat in this place when she's back in the Spring Court. So just that not telling her. And I was a little bit pissy about that too on this reread.
Yeah, I think it's one of Rhysand's like growth points that he has to work on, like, for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're gonna take an intermission now before we go on to the next half. So we've reached that point. So here we go. Anybody, I'm gonna mute myself. We're gonna go take a quick little potty break, and we'll be right back. Okay, join us for the second half. Wow.
The light was bothering me so bad.
I hope nobody has an early bedtime because
I don't.
I'm literally like, we're almost at 2 hours already and we're at halfway through.
It's all right. I got cupcakes.
Oh my gosh, it's okay. We're actually going to go a little faster through some things because I want to get to theories. So
Yeah.
just wait to get back. I also totally forgot to mention the whole point. We went to the human realm. Wait for Joe and Jessen, but I skipped why they went to talk to her sisters in the first place. But
That's all good.
yeah, it's okay. It's not that important. We'll get back to it anyway, because when the adder attacks, though, is there another one of her powers she uses yet? Does she use?
She winnows for the first time.
That's with the adder, or is that?
It is with the adder, I think.
Yeah, it's after the adder. She does it to Reese, and she watches him, and then she does it like pouncing on him.
Oh yes.
Does she winnow when she's getting away from the Weaver?
I don't think so. I think she
No.
uses something else.
Okay.
When does she first transform like a hand or a? Because when does she use the spring quartz stuff the first time? That's shape shifting.
Oh.
That's whenever Lucian comes for her.
It's with she uses a lot with Lucian. Like we'll get to that
Yeah.
one, but I was wondering if that was the first time.
And the summer court.
Okay. Because she's doing some of the training with she does some of the physical training with Azrael, and then Reese is also trying to make her do stuff. Or is Azrael doing it? See, I get them all confused. Because they're trying to make her like start and put out the fire. That's Aelin.
Oh, that is Aelin.
Some people have the same powers.
Worlds collide.
I was saying before, Joe and Jessica, before you both hopped in, I forgot to mention why she went to go to her sisters, and it was just
I was listening. I was like walking around my kitchen eating cheesecake, and I was listening.
Because it's not too important, because we're gonna get back to the Mortal Queens anyway. But they went to ask them to be like the host for them and to send the letters and everything. So now we have that plate also spinning. So we go back, and there's more like training montage stuff. We survive the adder. She uses winnowing for the first time. That's another night court. Well, that's not specific. That's right. That one's not
Is that all
specific.
High Lords, like all High Hot and all fairy things?
Isn't it all high fae can?
High Fae?
They possibly can. They just have different amounts and how far they can go.
The powerful ones can, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Because that one's not specific. And yeah, I think that's the only other one they use. Okay. So anyway, yeah, we survived that. There's training. Then the next kind of like big piece is we finally hear back from Tarquin, and he invites them to the summer court. And our mission in the summer court, I'm going to read another little chunk about this one, and then we'll talk about it. Where's that one? Oh yeah, we also, so the wiki, they do not put all this in the right order. So shame on the Sarah J. Maas wiki for not being perfect. But we find out more about Miriam and who was the Jurian's lover, and he fell in love with Dracon. And then that's important to remember because it just is. But then after speaking with the Mortal Queen, did we speak with them yet? This shit is all in the wrong order. Ignore that. We're going to the summer court. We'll just forget about that part. So we get to go there, and we have to do a little bit of acting while we're here, because she does some little flirt with Tarquin to get him to show her stuff, and we're trying to find the Book of Breathings. So he's taking her to the treasure rooms, and she's trying to see where he's keeping this. So I can't remember. Is there any other really important stuff we get from the summer court besides like she likes Tarquin? He flirts with her. Reese gets a little bit jealous about it. They both get a little bit jealous of each other.
Is it explained why the summer court has the book?
I was wondering, because I don't remember an explanation.
I don't
I don't remember
remember.
it being explained.
Yeah, I don't remember why particularly the summer court was put in charge of this.
Yeah, in my like wiki here, it literally just says like when the bone carver says how they each got a part, it literally just says the Mortal Queens have a part and the summer court has a part. Like that's what it says in my wiki. So
Like,
if
why are they
someone-
so special that they get the book?
well, isn't it because of his powers to protect it? Like, does it have to do with being
With his
able to
shielding
put?
abilities, you mean?
Yeah, Like, is that why?
Oh.
More power, and that's why she'd be able to like find it and then use the day court curse breaking stuff to do that. I don't know.
I don't know why he has it.
Yeah,
I would kind of wonder. I was hoping that was a question that was going to be answered. So
It's not explained in the book.
It's
Oh.
not. I just pulled it up.
Okay.
It just says, when the cauldron was made, its dark maker used the last of the molten ore to forge a book, the Book of Breathings. In it, written between carved words, are the spells to negate the cauldron's power or to control it wholly. But after the war, it was split into two pieces. One went to the Fae and one to the 6 human queens. It was part of the treaty, purely symbolic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it didn't necessarily matter who got it then.
Maybe everyone was like, not it, and Tarquin was too slow, and he got it, and he had to protect it.
Or
That
it
was
has to do, like, maybe it has to do with where it's being kept at, because it is in that really secluded, very hard place to get to. And so it's like, who has the best place to hide it? And they put it there.
Yeah.
In the same reason that like the mountain prison is in the night court. It didn't get picked. That's just where it is.
Just happened to be where it's at.
It just ended up being in his land, because when the treaty happened, like, they might not have had all 7 courts split up yet.
Right.
So it just ended up being in Tarquin's land, because Tarquin's a very new High Lord too.
Yeah.
Like, he had only
He's
just
young.
become it, right? He had just become it before Amrita. Isn't that what happened?
Yeah, he's young. He's like 80.
Yeah.
He's very
He's like
young.
a baby. He's a baby.
The thing I liked with the summer court scenes is the fact that we see Feyre, and I don't know if it's one of your points, Jen, so if I'm jumping ahead, just let me know.
Go ahead.
When Feyre says, you would be easy to love, but I'd rather have you as a friend, that told me that Feyre was on that like healing journey. Like she's over, not like she's not through it, but she was over the worst of it. So it started telling me that like Feyre, we were going to start seeing more of the Feyre that we saw in the previous book. Like she was starting to figure out, remember who she was, because that seems like something that the previous Feyre before Under the Mountain would have said. And so I really enjoyed that scene, and I enjoyed that Tarquin was the one that kind of brought that out into her, because he's another High Lord, but he's a High Lord, but he's new to it. Like you said, he's only 80 years old, so he's brand newbie. He has no idea really what the fuck's going on. She has no idea what the fuck's going on. It's kind of like a common ground for them, you know?
Sure. That works.
I liked being in the summer court. I
Me
would like to
too.
be there more. I want more. I like them, the little that we see, you know?
Always one of my problems is that we don't go to more of the courts.
That's what I'm
Mhm.
saying.
Yeah.
I know there's certain ones we can't go to because they hate us.
Yeah.
But even in all of the books, we only go to like 3.
Yeah.
Really?
Even in all of them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Like we barely trip through a couple, but like this one, the spring court and the night court, we spend the most amount of time in, and even the summer court. I mean, it's a good chunk actually. We're in the summer court.
Yeah.
Because it takes them, isn't it a few weeks, or is it a week or a couple weeks?
Yeah, they're there for a little while because
Yeah.
she's trying to scope out this book.
Yes.
They're trying to do other political things, so like they have to spend some time there.
Yeah. So yeah, they're spending time there. And then someone mentioned it. This is when Amryn starts her little amorous stuff with the prince.
I love that.
Darian.
Amryn
I
needs to get
loved all
too.
the little romancy things happening in the summer court.
Yep.
One of the fanfics I
I'm
found
11.
has them as a couple in it.
Aw.
They're not the main couple, but they like get POV chapters, so I'm very excited for that one. Anyway. So they, it ends up being like kind of hard because Rhys isn't quite sure if he can like fully trust them, so they have to go ahead and try to steal it, because if they risk it and he won't side with them, then they'll really be fucked. So they just have to go for it. So they go to sneak in, they get into this room, the book is talking to her, right? Creepy fuck.
Yeah.
And then the cave starts it's a cave, a room, it starts filling with water. And who can rescue us but the sister of the water wraiths? So that's why you do good deeds. They get saved.
Another scene with the graphic audio heightened so much.
Oh my gosh. it was
Any
really good.
action scene, the graphic audio makes better.
Yeah.
all kinds of action. I'm just saying it makes you know what I mean, everybody.
Yeah.
I do have a question because this is one that I didn't quite, because I read it. I didn't listen to the audio. So I want to make sure I understood this. In the scene where the room starts to fill with water, I was under the impression that Feyre was carrying Amryn. Is that what's actually happening? Like she put her on her back?
Yeah.
So is that another use of her power? Like she's physically stronger than she ever was before?
Well, yeah. I mean,
think
it's like
being
vampires.
Fae.
Is that just a Fae power in general, or was that something that we just didn't?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, like
Yeah.
in Twilight, when Alice, who's like 5'5", can like carry
I liked
Bella.
Scary people.
You know what I mean? Yeah. She literally puts on her back because she's small.
Yeah.
So, and
Very
Feyre's smaller than whatever size. So she has her on her literally like a spider monkey.
No.
You better hold on tight, Spider-Man.
Oh god.
No.
Yes.
Hold on tight, spider monkey.
Don't touch Spider Monkey.
Oh.
I didn't get it. Okay, anyway.
No.
Fucking
This is a
Twilight.
good point. Her personality is very big, Lola, but Amryn is tiny. She's a tiny little person.
She's very
I think
I just
maybe
like
you're
the
saying that
body.
Pharaoh was just taller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I just want to make sure that
it's
I understood that because I thought that's what was happening, but I was like, okay, is this
Yeah.
like another power that's exposing that we just didn't get mentioned, or is it just a
No.
thing?
No, it's not a super carrying power. It's just
Mm.
for
Okay.
And because Amryn isn't like she doesn't have all the powers of like a fae. She just put
I think it's
herself
also
in a
just
fae
kind of
body.
like, you know, when a chamber, whatever thing fills with water and you try to get like that last breath of air, like prop Amryn up so she can get that last bit of air kind of
Okay.
thing, maybe.
Yep. It's great. Come on, you know it, Candace. You know it. Okay, so we get out, we head back, and very shortly we receive our blood rubies, which Amryn just loves them, but it means that there's a which is very sad because Tarquin already was self-conscious that he was being too nice to someone. He was afraid of being seen as a weak lord. And we knew this weakness, or like that he had this feeling already, and then they did this to him. So it's a bummer because maybe we could have trusted him, maybe not. We don't fully know. So we just did what we did.
I also like that Farrah has an insight that it bothered Reese a lot to like he could have possibly made a friend and then he did that. So yeah.
But that's a great point because Reese is like, I will betray anyone I have to do this because it's for everyone. What I'm doing is for everyone, but there's some people that they don't realize that it's for everybody. So we'll do what we have to do. And that's something we will fully see when we get to Wings and Ruin because there's some High Lords who are fucking idiots and it isn't just Tamlin. So,
Oh yeah.
anyway,
Oh yeah.
they both took it hard. Yes, they absolutely do. Absolutely.
He's very likable so far. So I mean,
Yeah, I mean he's a sweetie. Like he hasn't been ruined by all
He
this.
has seafoam green hair. Who wouldn't like a guy like that?
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and he also is very aware of what Feyre did under the mountain and like the compassion. Like he knows what Reese did for that person who was like trying to get away, and he wiped his mind of the like pain before, and we find out more about that. And is it in the summer court, or because right around here? Isn't this when Reese has like the nightmare? Because when does she start finding out more of what I
think they're back.
Okay, but
They're definitely like in Valaris when that happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so we go back from the summer court, and then now that we have that piece of the book, we have the scene with the book where Amryn realizes the language. So here's another mention of language. She says this isn't a language that she like used to speak.
Mm-hmm.
A very, very old one from where's the words? Oh yeah. It's only who is only known person of her kind. They believe that the book's language is that of Amryn's. Okay, so the language is of Amryn, but she's the only person of her kind. That's what it says. And they believe that the complete book might also help her get home using magic. What? Does it say that? I didn't know that.
Reese said that hopefully at the end, like maybe there would be something that
He's hoping. He's
get
hoping
back.
that,
Like
that it could help her.
mhm.
That's interesting. My spidey sense is going because of things that I know that y'all
Yeah.
don't know.
when
Wow.
when they talked about how like when he was explaining the creatures in the world and how there's some creatures like Amryn that there's only one of,
Yeah.
like the portals maybe to other like dimensions or universes, and it closed and people were stuck here. I'm just like, oh, this is interesting. So how were they open in the first place? And
Yeah, this is
know?
making me think of the Valg from Throne of Glass.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Plus,
Once out.
what they call it, I don't know what the if the name has any significance, but it is the Lashon Hakadesh, the holy tongue.
Yes,
So
when I remember,
you could go so many different ways with that.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking Crescent City vibes with that one. That's what
Yeah.
I'm
That's what I was
leaning
thinking
towards.
too, Jessen.
Yeah.
The Book of Breathings is mentioned in another book.
Okay.
Ooh,
But we
I'll have
haven't
to keep an
reread it
eye
yet.
out.
So
Well,
I'm going
I mean,
to have to.
you, my friend Jessen, did actually reread that book recently.
Yeah, but I wasn't looking for anything when I was rereading it. I was just
This was the first like real connection that I made to, and I know it's a future book, but it is like it was the first real connection I made, is that it mentions the Book of Breathings.
Yeah.
awesome. I will be on the lookout.
Yeah. It's gonna
I
be
feel left out.
Okay.
It's not really an
We'll get there,
I'm confused
Jackie.
too, guys.
It's great. Okay, keeping right along. So we have the first half, and then I'm only going to touch on them real quick, but we meet them for the first time because this is the second time we go back home, and now they have agreed to show up, and they want, they're being super bitchy. They want proof. So we meet them. We realize how horrible that they
Awful they
are.
are.
And greedy,
Yeah.
greedy, vicious bitches.
He hates
That's them.
them, so that's pretty much it.
Yes, and so they ask for proof. And this is where, like, Reese is starting to think about a risk that he's going to take. So he has always known that to get some people on his side, he might have to share Valaris with the outside world, because currently nobody outside of Valaris who's, like, been there knows that it exists. Like, it doesn't, he's wiped it from knowledge. It's like the place that cannot be named. But it's one thing for him to say that a place exists. We need proof to prove that he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
Do that. Hold on. Let me see if anyone said anything. I'm skipping people. Hey, Wendy, you're amazing. I'm sorry I'm skipping a lot of this because I'm trying to keep us going. He also knows Reese saved him. Yes, we're talking about Tarquin, the mountain. Maybe it's back from the number for it. The human queens are bitches. Yep, except for the pretty queen and the one that was missing. Yeah. Exactly right. So then,
that wasn't there.
Yeah. To get proof, we need to go to the Court of Nightmares to get the ball of truth, the Veritas, the orb. And to do that, we get to meet Morrigan's father. This absolute fuck turd.
What
Oh,
a
God.
douchebag.
I have a question about this.
Yep,
So
Yep.
why does Rhysand feel like he can't just go to Morgan's father and be like, give me the orb? Bye. I'm the High Lord.
That's a
Like,
great question, Rachel.
why all this
he is
deception?
all powerful? Why can't he not just be like, all of this shit's
Give it to me,
mine?
bitch.
I want
Like-
that. Yeah,
like-
exactly.
Yeah,
I'm
have
I'm there.
theories. I'm sorry. I have two theories. One, I think it's because Sarah wants to have this scene that we have and to see the to show Feyre now what, just to like show her this
show
other
the
side.
court.
Yeah, to show her what Court of Nightmares is and that this
And
is
like
the
why
first-
Rhys has the reputation that he has,
Right.
it's because of this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And like why that like exists in people's mind, and for her to see like how, uncomfortable it makes him to have had to put her in these, literally in some of these positions that he puts her in, because he's lived through those things. But also, I think it could be that, what's his name? What's her dad's name?
Is it Kieran? Am I
Yeah.
making that up?
Yes. Yes. That he, would maybe sell them out if there was anything suspicious, because he really hates Rhys.
Right. He doesn't want to call attention to anything by being like, hey, give me this orb.
Right. Because that would be like, what's he trying to do? Is he trying to what is he doing? So those are my two theories. One, it's just Sarah wanting to.
Yeah,
show
we like to
him.
keep them
There's
ignorant.
finding a reason really to show the coordinators.
Right. And is it something that has to be given over though? Wasn't there something about like you can't steal it?
That's the second half of the book.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. There's something you like can't steal.
I thought the same thing about this whole scene. I was like, he's the High Lord, he's in charge. The way I rationalized it was that he said early on that, you know, the Court of Nightmares is his realm. It's the Night Court. But there are two divisions. There's the Court of Dreams and there's the Court of Nightmares. So he lets them do whatever the hell they want. Just to kind of, so they don't fuck with his shit up here, because this is what he actually gives a shit about. So I think that was that's why I rationalized it. This is him playing the mask, playing the High Lord, playing the two different polarized parts, and still keeping that different, the court separate, because that's what he has to. And also, I think he just want to have a little slap and tickle of Farah in his old way. Because he was doing a hell of a lot more than he probably should have, and so was she. All right? Let's just put it that way. She was enjoying that a lot, and that scene was epic. I loved it.
Yep, it's a good one. It's a good one. That's the part of the book where you start to be like, "Can we do something, please?" And we're like, "No."
That was
not
like,
yet.
No,
not yet.
There's a little bit of frustration at this point.
As much as people go on about Chapter 55, I get it. This scene is hotter, arguably.
Oh,
it is.
100%.
It is. I'm with you. I think that it is delicious.
I mean, Sarah, she's really good at writing sexual tension, because for so long she had to hold back in her writing, so she would get you as close to it as you could.
I love the way she writes it too, because like, don't get me wrong, I love graphic, I love dirty language, I love that, but she has a way of invoking that same feeling without using half of the dirty words, the naughty words. I mean, she just
she knows how to write
all the
it.
way.
She knows,
she
well,
knows
it
her
also,
craft very, very well.
This scene also gives us the chance where, after it's done, and we're all like hot and bothered by it, Reese says something very important, because he's like, "It's just a physical reaction, Feyre. Like, I understand," and it's showing more of what he's living.
His trauma,
because we get to see where, like, Amarantha could make his body do a lot of things, but he wasn't home, and he's giving that like understanding to Feyre, even though Feyre's like, "Oh no, I mean, I know it was a physical reaction, but I'm like, I
was kind of into it.
Part of him.
And that guilt of him, like, Rhysand is like the best actor ever, and like this guilt of having to put this mask on, especially around Feyre,
and hurt people.
Yeah.
But when Kieran thinks bad thoughts, what do we get to do? We get to break some fingers, right? Break an arm or something. What's he do? Oh, he breaks many of his bones.
Like shatters an arm.
He just like dissolves his bones in his arm.
Yeah, and he's like, "Don't you dare heal them."
Yeah, don't you dare go to a healer.
Yes. Okay. So then on our way back from here, we have our first almost hit with the ash arrows. We're just going to skate on by this, but we have an almost hit here on our way to the Illyrian camp. We go there one time. Did we just skip? They fucking skip Starfall in these notes. Well, I'm not skipping Starfall. Rude. They don't talk about Starfall. You are fired, my friend. This wiki is fired. But there is like, he does get an almost hit, and we find out that they're able to like track his magic. So I'm just making that note. But then we get to have Starfall, and it's the first Starfall that he's got to be back. And this is it. This is where we find out what a vicious cunt, and yes, I said that word live on YouTube. We find out what a vicious cunt that Amarantha was, that she would purposely keep him sexually enslaved while Starfall was happening, because she's disgusting. And we really get to find out more of that. And we really get to start to see what he put himself through, that he let himself be seen as her horse so that his people could still have
protected. Yeah.
And it's a beautiful moment, and they dance together. It's the cover of this one. So pretty. It's beautiful. Even though it might be bodies dying, we don't know what it is. They mention that.
Then when it like scratches on her face.
That was a cute moment.
That was adorable. I just love
It
that.
was cute.
Yes.
They
And I
are-
love whenever
she.
whenever she like smiles at him and he just like, oh my God, like this is like a real smile, you know? I
Yeah.
love that. I love those moments.
It's beautiful. It's swoony. We're getting there. We're getting so close, guys. We're getting there.
Well, it's coming.
Because now we go to the war camp, and it's the one that Rhysand, Cassian, and Azriel trained in. So we get their full history, finding out, you know, who's a
I like
bastard.
the Illyrian, you know, culture and stuff that we get to find out about and stuff. It's very interesting how many
How
different
horrible they are.
yeah, how many different types of like in the Night Court, like how many different types of like cultures and stuff.
Yeah.
Just right.
I would love like a novella or maybe like a smaller book just about the Illyrian side of things, because I found that whole culture and that whole dynamic extremely fascinating. Like I would love to have like a prequel of Cassian, and
I don't know if we need a prequel. I think we'll find out more later.
I really like, I just latched onto this because I'm a Navy brat, so like the whole military aspect was like, this was just, I really, really enjoyed this, and I love the idea that Rhysand was all about training females. That was just like, yes, this is like solidifying him even more. But I really liked the backstory and the history with these people, and just the wings and the fighting techniques. It was so much reminded me of like Sparta and training from a very young age. I felt very.
I had 300 vibes during
yes,
these
yes. I'm a history major at heart, so whenever I see something that reminds me of something that I like studied for years, I'm like, bring this shit on. Yes, this is Night Court.
This is the Night Court.
I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved it. It was great.
And so we find out more about their history together, how they all were friends and they got separated. We hear about the event that everyone has to compete in, and they won it together. That's foreshadowing to something later on that people don't know. But that they were able to find each other and fight together. And I just love a bromance. So I love getting to see that. And then we find out why Tamlin hates Rhys, but why Rhys hates him now too. And that Rhys actually felt a kinship with Rhysand because he saw that he wasn't the same as his brothers and father. And they became friends. And that Tamlin's father didn't like that. And so he did something really horrible. He killed Rhysand's mother and sister were killed by Tamlin's family. And then Rhysand's father killed Tamlin's whole family. So definitely bad blood here going on. And it both sucks. But it definitely is kind of horrible to see that like Tamlin can't see that was a two-sided thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
He was just fully like he's a monster. And it's like, do you know what happened? Like, and that and the wings, and there's just stuff.
Yeah.
It's horrible. Mm-hmm. It's awful. But yeah. Oh, what's this? I also think he knows she worries how fast she's moving on.
I think Wendy's a little bit behind. She's watching a little bit delayed.
Okay. I'm noticing that too. I'm like, she's talking about things we already got to. That's okay. Watching right along with us. So yeah, so there's a lot of stuff we find out in this part. And then we have the Lucian incident. So Lucian shows up with some other people from the Spring Court, and they're trying to take favor back and just gaslighting all the way around in this moment. Actually don't have a card for this one, but we're going to talk about it. And this is when like it gets real hard to love Lucian for a little bit because he's not listening to her. He's acting like Tamlin.
This Lucian broke my heart in this scene, broke my heart in it.
Yeah.
I was like, I was a fan of you in ACOTAR. Like you were the side character that I was down for, and
yeah, there's
dude,
I think it just goes to show you like that Night Court, you know, reputation. It's just like nobody else outside of it think there's anything that good that comes. And of course, like Lucian being Tamlin's BFF, like they just have the bad feels for them. But I feel more sympathy with Lucian because I don't know, he just needs better friends. Tamlin, I mean, obviously he feels beholden to him a little bit, but I loved that Farrah got to like stand up for herself and like be a badass and like take control of the situation finally. Like I just loved it for her. And I loved her just like expressing like her frustration with the time that she was pretty much held captive in the spring court. So I just loved it. It was
like,
awesome.
You let him do this to me. But also I can't remember, like we probably skip this because we can't talk about every damn page in the book, but we learn Lucian's history in this book too. Yep. Do we learn that from Moore? Who tells us? I don't know. But we find out what happened to Lucian and why he, like that full story too. But the thing why I of course it pisses me off what Lucian does, but we also get to see her using more of her powers and like being badass and just being like, I have a voice now. I'm not going to shut up about it. This is where I want to be. I have a feeling that like, Lucian has heard of this. He probably thinks she's been brainwashed. I think he knows that Rhys is a Daemati. Like he knows he's this. So for all he knows, she is completely brainwashed and being told to say this. So he just wants to grab on and get out of there. And who knows what, has been being told to him. He sees how fucked up Tamlin is. Like we know from later on, like we know that he's completely trashed everything. He's depressed. He's spiraling. So it's not an excuse, as we've said, but it is kind of a reason of why he would be like, I'm just going to take you,
Plus, I also think that Lucian has a lot of dedication to Tamlin, especially because of his past, and he feels a duty and a responsibility towards Tamlin. And maybe that has to do with, why he obeys, even though he may not feel exactly that Tamlin is making the best decisions. Yeah. And that combined with the bad blood that is just evident within, the whole dynamic between the spring court and the night court. I think that he just doesn't understand. Maybe he understands, but he's caught between a rock and a hard place. I still love Lucian. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that guy. So
he's not the one who kept blocking you around, but he didn't step in.
But like you said, it's like the dynamic between him and Tamlin. Like he feels, grateful to Tamlin, but it's not the same dynamic that Rhys has with his people because they went through shit together. Yeah. And, Lucian experienced something and Tamlin saved him. So it's like, it's different and he just needs to break out of it. That's basically what he needs to stand up for himself. And
yeah. Well, and also Tamlin gave him a home. He has made, given him a position and they've been together a really long time. He's known Farrah a year or less, he's known her for how long and he hated her to begin with. So
that he knows Tamlin's doing wrong, but like he's still,
Yes.
But that makes him just as bad as Tamlin.
That's a good point.
I definitely thought that Lucian wants to bring Farrah back because he thinks she will make everything okay. He sees his best friend spiraling and wants to fix it. That is a great point.
Yeah, things are going to shit in the spring court. So he just wants to make things better. Yeah.
Well, and he probably sees Ianthe getting more and more power, and he is freaked out by that because she's a fucking rapist and a creeper and like all this stuff. So,
go ahead. My scene, I just want. This is more of a clarification for me. So we get to see a lot of Farrah's powers like come to full swing, like the shape-shifting one that she inherited from Tamlin.
Yep.
She grows wings, right? Like
that was a shape-shifting part.
Yeah, at one point.
Here's my question. Why doesn't she ever fucking use them again?
Yeah.
I think it was more like an adrenaline thing. Like it wasn't like, I don't know if she has full control of all those powers, but in like times of stress, she gets to
and to use
do
them.
More.
Yeah, like she had the claws, and I'm like, Rhys saw them. Why don't you okay, bring them back? Let's see if we can actually like utilize these because she gets carried.
Yeah, that's literally 100 pages in another book. So great question, but it happens. Like we learn how to use our wings. It's just
you have to learn how to use them. They're like a muscle. Like it's not just like
Well, no, I understand that she had to learn, but like he was so big on training her powers that he's like, hey, this is a power that I literally use all the time, but it's never brought to the training sessions again. Like that's what I was saying. It's never brought back up again.
Yeah, not right now.
Not right now.
I don't think she really knows how to channel a specific power yet at that point. Especially when she's in such an emotional state, it's almost like an explosion, and whatever comes out. So that's the first time that we see that she actually has it.
It's like
But
her powers know what she
just
needs
wait.
in that moment, and they
Yes.
just
When
manifest.
she's emotional, the one she needs work. So the ones we've like worked on is we're working on the Daimati stuff so she can protect herself, and we've worked on like that's really it. Like that's the one he's trying to hone in on, and the other ones have kind of just shown up when
Because he's very familiar with that one. Obviously, he can instruct her in it.
right.
She's made water animals.
Not
Oh,
yet.
yeah, the water.
Oh, yeah.
animals.
We're about to. But also teaching her to fight hand to hand, that's something she's always going to be able to use. Whereas being able to control these powers when we only have like a couple weeks at a time, like we don't have enough time.
Yeah.
So there's a later time where like we have time to start working on individual powers so that they are consistent and can be used in danger. Whereas a lot of times her powers are showing up with like there's no choice, which
Okay.
we're going to see very shortly. So we also have the first night in the inn, which again, I didn't make a slide for that, but we have the like, she's like, make me feel good.
Oh,
There's only one bed. Oh no.
And all that.
this scene. Okay, this might be TMI, but this scene, I had to stop and I had to go wake my husband up. I was just like, I don't care, babe. I'm waking you up. This was that line. I wanted to do this, and then he did the thing. I'm like, done. I'm sold. Put this book down. We're going.
Yeah.
I forgot about this scene.
Oh,
Me too. I did too, Rachel.
I
I
love
was like,
it.
wait, this happened? What?
I love it for two reasons. One, because it's hot and it's again
Oh my
Sarah
God, it was
tonight,
great.
hot. But number two, even though she is completely willing and ready, he makes a joke out of it, right? He doesn't make a joke, but he's like, I want to be able to scream as loud as I want. Like he says that. Super hot. But the real reason is I can't have sex with her until she knows the truth. Because if I do
Right.
that, I've totally fucked up.
Yeah.
So when you read this like third or fourth or fifth time is when it hit me that like, oh my gosh, there's more to this. Because it's not that he does, well, of course he wants to, but he's like, I haven't told her this yet. And the very next day, literally the very next
He was
day,
debating
he
now.
was like, oh, do I tell her now? Because like
5
then
minutes from
go
now.
forward.
Yeah.
But if he had fully like fucked her before that, then
It would have felt more like a betrayal.
yeah.
but of course he's just about to tell her, and then he gets shot out of the sky because he's not paying attention. He's thinking about that sweet lady bits instead of paying attention. You know it.
Too distracted.
You think about that sweet girl who's got all up
Man,
against him, and boom,
that
he gets
scene,
shot
I don't-
down.
I don't know if it was because I waited so long for that scene and I wanted it so badly, but that scene,
Oh yeah.
that was probably better than when the actual thing for me.
Oh,
I
no,
was
it's
like,
not.
okay, no, it's not. But still, it was really close.
It was good for me because back when I read this, I didn't know Chapter 55 exists. So I'm like, maybe this is as much open door as I'm going to get. Like, I had no idea. Like, I didn't know.
As
Chapter
a,
55 was
as a newbie, I've seen TikToks on people have read this book. They're like, oh, wait till you get Chapter 55. Chapter 55. I had no idea what the fuck they were talking about.
Yeah.
I had the same experience.
Stop. We're going on. This is not going to last 4 hours. We're keep going. So, and then he gets like taken, and she has to use a bunch of powers to get him out. But he's
Another badass whenever she's just like, I'm going to kill them all. I love it.
Yes.
She's amazing. She's going to do it. It's great. But then
Traps a cereal.
he's sick, and so we have to go to the cereal. So this time we have to the cereal. And the cereal, like all the good memes say, the cereal loves the tea. So the cereal says you can use your blood, and because of the healing power in your blood from the Dawn
Daylight.
Court,
Dawn.
Court, you'll be able to do that. And then also something else, you'll be able to heal your mate. It'll all be fine, blah, 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 blah. Like the cereal doesn't
Just drop that.
realize.
Yeah, she's like, oh, am I creating drama? Oh no.
Yeah.
You know what you're doing.
Oh, you are.
You know what you're doing.
Yes. So then, and you know it because Farrah has like already released the cereal and it stays to give her the tea. That's helpful. So yes.
Yeah.
So then, yes. So Farrah then like rushes back and is super pissy and is like, fucking drink.
I love how she's like, fucking chew it. Chew that plant.
And then
And he's like, why is she so
I-
mad?
you only get to answer yes or no. Am I your mate? And he's like,
fuck,
So-
shoot faster, heal faster. Like
Yep,
he was
and
like, I'm in
so-
deep shit right now. I
Yep,
loved
so
it.
then he's like, she's like, take me home right now. And he does. He's just absolutely broken. She literally drops him on the ground and is like, More, you're going to take me away right now. Takes her to the cabin. And now we go to the House of Mist. We finished part 2. Okay, now we can talk a little bit of all of that stuff. I was just pushing us to this place. So it's a lot. I love
the House of Mist scene when she finds out, when she reminds herself of who she was, like she starts painting again.
Yeah.
This was great. I was just like, this is what she needed. Like, she needed Reese to help heal. She needed to go through all this stuff, but what she needed was just, she needed to get back to who she was as roots. And this is what got her back there. And I was just like, yes, finally. Yeah. Shit can actually, like, go down now. Like, not that it hasn't already, but, like, she's back.
Well, and for me, this is where we've, like, again, her PTSD won't ever leave her. Like, this isn't just over. But it is, like, we've kind of come, like, the full journey for that within, like, this book. Because we've went through these phases of like denial and anger and like all these things we're going through. And we're at this where like, it's just acceptance. And it's just her gets to be alone with herself with no one telling her things. She gets to examine all the information. You know, she gets to go through all of that. And so then when he shows up, she's like ready to talk. She's ready to hear his reason now.
Yes.
I'm glad that she was like ready to listen. Like by that point, she'd had enough alone time and she was like willing to let him try to explain himself, and she wasn't going to just be like, no, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And like, yeah, I mean, it's just, it shows too, like her maturity too. Cause in like, you know, back in the beginning of like how she would jump to conclusions about stuff, but because, and he was right to do this. Like, this is why, like what he did, it wasn't wrong. Because who she was when he meets her, there's no way he could just say, I'm your mate. Like, she would never fucking believe that. And or she would have thought he was trying to trick her.
Yeah.
So there isn't anything else that he could have done. And like, she needed to go through all of these things before he could tell her. And
yeah,
you know,
there really was no good time to bring it up until recently, you know?
Absolutely.
There wasn't. Yeah.
The main thing from, sorry.
Nope, you're okay. The thing she wanted to paint. And she couldn't hold it anymore. Yeah, beautiful.
The thing about the mates that
sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No. You go because you're talking about the mate stuff. So yeah.
The thing I really liked about the mate thing is so the end of ACOTAR, that was something that I didn't understand at all. When he just is like looking at her and then he just like vanishes. I was like, I don't know. I know this means something. I don't know what this fucking means. But when he sat down to the story and they got to that, I was like, fuck me. And I was like, Jen's gonna call me out on this one.
Yeah.
I even thought that. I was like, as soon as I read that, I'm like, Jen's gonna fucking call me out on this one. God
no,
damn it.
I'm not calling you out. It's not at all. It was a great notice. Like I said that when I watched your review of it, I was like, I love that you noticed, because the first time I read it, I don't notice because I'm just like, oh, whatever, what's going on? But again, Sarah doesn't like put stuff for no reason. She doesn't leave us. And when he gets to tell his story, which I will say, sometimes when I read this chapter and sometimes I don't. It just depends on my mood.
It's a long monologue.
It's a long
very
monologue.
long.
The audio, the graphic audio does help with it.
Yes.
And it is great to get it all out in one. And I bet too, like, it's tough to do an exposition chapter like that, you know, like it is. But honestly, I like that she did. I like that it's all in one. It's like, boom, we're getting it all. And it's that, like, in a book where we're not going to get his POV, you know, I mean, technically we do, but like where we're not going to get his POV, this is him just like putting it all out. He's like, here we are. Here's everything. This is my life for the last how many years. I never thought I'd get you. And then I just thought it was a cruel joke. And then there was maybe a possibility I could have you, but we'd have to survive that, you know, like all the stuff he had to deal with. And when we hear about how he had just an instant to decide what he was going to do.
Yeah.
And we fully find out like why Valaris is safe and that he made that decision to lock his friends away from him, you know, like to protect them and to wipe out the knowledge of Valaris of every person who knew about it.
It was more like instinct than anything. It's not pre-planning, you know?
And in making that choice, he, you know, lost himself. Like he was damning himself to the position because he used his magic to do that. And it's amazing. So anyway,
and I can't stress enough like how mind blowing it was for me the first time that I read this book. Reading a character like Reese, I have never read a character, definitely not in a fantasy book, and I don't think I've ever read a book where we have a male character going through PTSD from sexual trauma like this. Like, that was just mind blowing. The way that Sarah wrote it, it was just like stunning to me.
Yeah.
Like, that was a huge part of his character development and everything that like just blew me away.
I'm glad it's Sarah doing it.
Before I got into dark romance, I'd only read 2 books that had male sexual PTSD this way, and one of them is Outlander, and this is the one.
Yeah.
Jamie's PTSD, and which we get to see.
Pretty sure Jamie was my first one I ever read. Actually,
yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, and that came out in 91. So I know that's not when we read it, but in my life of having read like romances, I'd only read, and this one was actually first. Did I read this before I read Outlander? I think I read this before I read Outlander.
Woo!
So it's 10 rereads that I've really soaked it into. But I think she does a great job, and it's not like she makes it so visceral without it being overly graphic. Like she uses the explanations of like it was having his like soul raped and done, and like that's what Diana Gabaldon done too. And Sarah does it with a lot less words. I'll tell you that. She does it with a lot less words than Diana Gabaldon does.
Jamie's scene is like, God, it's forever long. It's brutal. But I'm glad that Sarah showed this through Reese, because you don't see this. I don't want to say trope, because this is something that happens in everyday life. Men don't speak up about sexual assault that often. They don't. And to have a character like Reese, who is as strong mentally as he is and as powerful as he is, to have experienced this. I mean, it's a big fucking deal to have a character this important go through this kind of crap. And I applaud Sarah for this. That whole monologue scene, I just ate up every single, I think I reread it twice before I actually moved on, because I wanted to make sure I got everything.
Yeah.
Because I read it the first through, and then I read it again to, make sure I tied everything together, because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. But man, Reese is just fucking amazing, and the fact that he's strong enough to bring it out and tell her just shows.
Feyre too.
One thing, like, I mean, when I reread this, even when I read this for the first time, this is one of my favorite scenes in the entire book. I mean, even though the spicy times are so delicious, and I love watching their, relationship, grow or whatever. This is one of the scenes that just hits me so emotionally hard. And every single time I go back to it, I mean, it probably is my favorite scene, even though it's a very long monologue and there's a lot of information that we get. I just love it so much. It's like a soul laid bare, and I eat it up. It's just so good.
I agree, Joe. I actually have a confession. So I read this chapter word for word, and I kind of skimmed the next chapter. Upon my reread, I was like, yeah, I love all the thoughts. It's swoony to me to hear all of like the journey for them to get together. Like, I loved it. I love to hear it from his.
And his mask is completely gone.
Yes. Vulnerable. I love it.
Well, and how like he is so completely like he's barely living anymore. He's a sex slave. He's away from his family. Like, he's completely isolated. And she, through her sacrifice, gives him like that back. And now he has to see her be with someone else, and not only be with someone else, because he's like, you know what? She gave me this back. If I'm suffering for okay, like, because she gave this back. But then to see her be mistreated and to suffer, and that's too much, And so he's so selfless in ways that like, it gets brought up again. How like selfish Tamlin is when he tries to fuck her against a wall instead of run away with her. And Reese is like, do you have any fucking idea what I'm doing to try to save you, the risks I'm taking for my court, and you're gonna fuck her against a wall. Like it makes
You
that
had
scene.
this opportunity
I
to
forgot
save
about that.
It makes
instead.
that scene when he breaks in and he's like, "You stupid people!" Like it makes it hit so much harder because now it's just like I'm not only giving you a way out, I was gonna give you my mate, and you just fuck up like this. Like it's just all these things, and he never fully paints this like black brush on Tamlin, but the actions of Tamlin show you that.
Yes.
You know, he never straight up says like I hate Tamlin, but Feyre.
No, he gave him opportunity to be happy together, and he didn't. He dropped the ball, and he was like, "Well, okay."
He just he was suffocating her. He says that, and so to see his mate be that way, you know. But there's one other thing I want to mention about this is like he gives her 3 types of home, and I found this allegory, or whatever, allegory might not be the right word, but he gives her a physical home that's a safe space that is like open and beautiful. He gives her a family home, like he gives her a family with his inner court, and then finally he gives her home as in a partner. He gives her a mate. So he gives her these 3 types of home from this person who had a place to live. I mean, it wasn't that safe. She had family, but they were all just like ghosts in the same house. And, you know, she had someone sleeping with half an hour. So, like, we see where she was at the start. And by this, he's given her all of this. What? What happened?
You froze for a second.
Yeah, you froze. It was fine.
Oh,
it's fine.
I'm back. Anyway. Okay. So now we're going to go on. We're going to gush about this, and then we're going to push through to the end because I want to keep this under 3 hours. So it's great. The first time through, I bet it's fucking fantastic. Let's talk about that. People, if you're still watching and it's your first time, did you enjoy some good open doorness?
Oh my god, that was fucking great. Oh my god, that scene splayed out on a table for my own personal buffet. Thank you. I love when they say things and they do it later. That's fantastic. Awesome. Everything. I really wanted the wing scene. I didn't get that, but I think I got it later, I think. But no, that fucking
yes.
Yeah. I had to show it. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, it's got like the paint splatters everywhere. Oh, honey.
This scene, just Sarah can write so well that she doesn't need so much graphic. She doesn't really need a lot of the scripts. Just the motion she conveyed in the scene, like you felt the love between them, you felt the connection between them, and she really didn't have to say a lot. It was just all implied, and it was just, oh my god, it was
best friends by this point.
Yeah,
like they are best friends now.
Yes,
it's beautiful. Like he's become her best friend. Like it's great. I mean, it's fantastic. So, I mean, I guess we all, it's good. This is her first book with like fully open door. And they only continue from now on. I promise. Well, okay, one of them doesn't have it because she wants to blue ball us all with
well, that's great.
But all the rest of them will have it. It's great. Her
that was great.
Putting smut in that book is stupid too, by the way. Anyway, moving on.
that is a later discussion for a later book.
Oh Lord!
I listened to an interview about why there wasn't smut in that book, and I was like, "This is literally your first fully adult book, and you put no smut in it."
Yeah, I was so frustrated. Oh,
anyway, I love Tamlin's dominance in ACOTAR, but Rhys's dominance when he had her keep saying, "Tell me, you're mine." Oh my god! I was like,
I love all of it.
Yes, God, I love that. I love it. I love it.
I'd be like, hell, at this point, I'm yours. Okay. Just
yeah.
take me. Just like,
I will put my husband for that one too, just so you know.
Your husband is probably like, "Can you?" Yes, we love this. I love it.
We're together. The people know, they make fun of it. It's great. We're happy they're together. So now we go back to see the Mortal Queens. We have the orb where you tell them. They still deny us, but then wait. You guys might have to help me with this.
I completely forgot about like the fallout from this scene.
Right.
I did not like fallout from this.
They hear back. Okay, here we go. They hear back from the Mortal Queens and they go to Feyre's home, even after seeing the truth of Valar. So they share it and they prove that it's true. The queens refuse to give them the book. They leave, but one queen has snuck the book away and left it for them to find before
It's
going
like
home.
under her skirts, and then she was just kind of like, whoopsie.
Yep.
And this is also when Cassian like vows to protect the sisters. And there's a very intense eye contact moment between Cassian and Nesta. It's really great. It's really great.
And I think he like brushes her cheek too, and it was just
he
like
wipes her
very
tear
cute
away.
moment. I was just like, oh my god! I was like, okay, very excited about that.
Yep. Okay, so then back home, Amber decodes the book, but then we have the attack on Valaris because the queens are lying liars who fucking lie. And I mean, we knew this was going to happen. It's horrible. They're not prepared for a fight to be there. You know, the Illyrians are in a completely different place, but Feyre becomes the hero of the rainbow, and she has her water wolves that can just attack and like drown that. Like, oh, I just love it so much.
So
like,
epic.
And we have this final.
I also loved her persistence with the adder. Like she was just like, "You're not getting away." Like I
like,
refuse.
this is third time is a motherfucking dead. That's what that means.
Yeah. You're gonna die today, sir. You will
Also,
die.
yes, Lola. They like drop the head of the queen who had like brought it. That's disgusting. That happened.
That
Disturbing.
So the secret's out, and now you know everything that Reese feared is kind of there, but they still needed to do this. So now we have the book, and we find out that like I will need to like touch the cauldron to like break it apart or to control it. Anyway, either way, she's gonna have to like get to it.
Yes.
And she isn't going to speak the spell. She has to like touch it and then like think the spell. But when they get there, they sneak in. Who pops up but Jurian? Yep.
And he's only a distraction, that sneaky little fucker.
So the king is able to bind their magic and with their own magic, and he's holding Azriel on, like he's gonna kill him. And it turns out that Tamlin sold them out. Because
nasty turd.
And he's horrible.
Tamlin
then,
being very, very selfish.
I threw the book. When this happened, I did a vlog of me reading this book. So this is on me on camera saying I don't want to read this anymore and crying and pissed the fuck off and throwing my glasses and kind of like throwing the book on my lap. And yeah, I'm on camera during this scene. Holy fuck. I was pissed.
Yeah.
I was just very disappointed. I was like, wow, you went there. I was like, I'm very disappointed. I was like, you went there and bad moves. Bad moves.
He's like, I'm going to save you. I'm going to take you home.
The arrogance of him in this scene was just pissed me off. Like, you motherfucker.
Gonna keep going. Because what Tamlin doesn't know, though, is Hybern has double crossed, and he has Nesta and Elaine and some of the queens, and we're like, we're gonna test it out to make sure it works first. But guess who we're gonna do it to? We're gonna do it to Nesta and Elaine. And so one by one, Nesta and Elaine get thrown in, and of course, when Nesta gets thrown in, it's the best fucking moment.
I forgot until you were rereading it, and then you reminded me of it. I was like, oh wait, that does happen, and like it's a great moment, honestly.
So
once again, the graphic audio.
She gives him the death finger.
She's just like, you motherfucker, I'm coming for you.
That whole scene was just like epically done on the graphic audio as well. Like, oh my god,
I have goosebumps right now thinking about it. I love it. Visuals, we love it.
So much.
So we also then find out because Lucian realizes that Elaine is his mate, and Nesta's like, no, you
kind of like, no. Honestly, that was my initial reaction. I was like, no.
Cassian starts rolling in pain because of what's happening to Nesta, so we know there's a connection right there. And then this is crazy. Even when Tamlin thinks he's gone too far, he still doesn't do anything compared to Cassian, who's trying to do something after his wings are ripped off. Yeah, poor baby. My poor baby. I love it.
Tamlin's a bitch. Tamlin's
God. Kim. I'm gonna keep pushing. I know people are talking about it. I'm getting to the end, and we've talked about this whole scene. Let me keep going. We're going. I know we're excited. Let's keep going. So then we find out really what Tamlin, why he switched them out or betrayed them, is because Hybern promised he could break this like mating bond / bargain or whatever. And so Feyre uses some of her own magic, and she's trying to find a crack in everything. And she's able to, like, she fakes it that she's been under this spell. And so really what the Hybern breaks is he breaks the bargain that she had with Rhys. But you can't break a mating bond. He's stupid. He doesn't realize that. But she pretends. And so she agrees. She, like, you know, Lucian, he's a little suspicious of it, but Tamlin, you know, he's a big dumb boy, and he's like, oh, my woman, she's back. And so they go back, and then she's pretending to fall over him, and she knows Lucian's a little suspicious, but Lucian doesn't say anything because he knows that Elaine is his mate now, and if he fucks up, he won't see her again. And so her friends are able to escape with the Book of Breathings and the sisters, so they are able to get away. And what we don't know, and we get Rhys's point of view, is that Feyre and Rhys actually got married the night before, and she was made High Lady of the Night Court, and the Spring Court unknowingly brings in the High Lady of the Night Court into their lands, and they're into fucking trouble. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Push through that.
When Tamlin says, I don't care if she's your mate, she's mine, I'm like, no. Screw you, douchebag.
It's not how it works.
Here.
It's not how it works.
Yeah, Nesta Screaming's amazing. Yeah, everyone's like, y'all, you gotta listen to. If you don't listen to anything else,
that scene alone is like, I was trembling.
Yeah,
listening to it.
It's so good. The tension,
incredible.
the music, the feelings. It's everything. It's so good. So, yeah, it's a lot. So, okay. Let's jump into a theories part of this or connections. I wrote both things because I didn't know what to go with. What other connections that we might not have mentioned do we see to the other books as a whole? And then also, if you haven't read this before, what are your theories about like the next book in this series? What do you see happening in Wings and Ruin? Those two separate things.
I
know.
The weapons, like Truth Teller. I remember, Jen, that you brought up like in one of the Throne of Glass live shows of like, look out for weapon names.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that's obviously like a big one.
Yeah.
There's a line in here. I don't know. Though there are legends that claim when the world was born, there were rips in fabric in the realms.
That's the one big one that I was like,
Yeah.
It's the timeline thing. Like I'm still like interested in like the timeline of it all and how does that work? You know?
Also, one thing that I noticed, and I don't know if I'm way off base, which at this point Sarah does a lot of things, so I might not be. But when they're when Amren and Feyre are going to get the Book of Breathings, Amren starts doing things on the door, and there's strange symbols that pop up on the door.
Word
so
marks.
I'm thinking word marks.
Word marks.
Immediately.
I didn't catch that.
I forgot about that.
That's for language.
Yes.
Like, maybe that's the language.
That word mark language. Yeah.
Which would then maybe make that like, because isn't the word mark language like even older than Throne of Glass stuff?
Yes.
Because
It's old.
So that would make Amren's world like even older than that.
Yeah, she's like an
that's a
ancient
good
being.
point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So,
which it
and
said
again,
that she was in the prison before the courts were even formed.
Right. Yeah.
She was in there for like a millennia. Yeah.
I think they
I'm
said like
thinking word
maybe
marks.
5. I think they said for Amren.
Yeah.
Like 5,000 years.
I'm thinking that
So,
any creature
long ass
that's known as the blank is an ancient Undying.
Yeah.
Like the Adder, the Surreal. Like these are all like in the same vein in my mind.
What
So
if
the
Amren has a V name?
The blank.
Oh, that would be cool.
But
The
like we
blank.
don't know it
We don't know.
but she's only of her kind. So, but she like, what if she has a V name?
I'm trying to think if there's a creature in the Throne of Glass world that has a V kind of name.
Right.
Um.
I mean, not anything besides the Valg, but there's like multiple.
Right.
But- But also, I mean, I think maybe for this world with the whole it's like some creature just got stuck there, so they're the only one of their kind, but there could be more out there in the universe, so they might not just be the only one of their kind in the entire universe, and also time continuum.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, Lola, that's what we don't know. That's our point. It's like, I don't know if this is your first time, Lola, so I'm not like I'm not gonna spoil for anyone anyway, but I mean, when I first started this read along, my big question is, by the time we get to the end of all of her books, there is a direct, absolute, positive connection between two series. I'm not saying which or how, but we absolutely know. And the reason I want to do this read along is I want to see where the other stuff fits in and how it fits in. And if it is time travel or if it is dimension travel or both.
Or both, yeah.
Right. Because 5,000 years of her falling, well, maybe we're still on the same timeline, but the dimension hop and it's a different time. So that's
time could pass differently in different dimensions. Like we don't know. We don't know.
So that's why, Lola, like I don't know. That's why I don't know how the timeline lines up. I know connections between a series and a series and a series and a series, but I don't know how all the series connect. And that's what I want.
We will discuss, don't worry, but not until much later.
Okay. Well, if you have read the others, Lola, then you probably know what I mean then.
Yeah.
So
anyway. The second part of your question, Jen, what for the first timers that are going into this next book of this?
Yes.
I have an idea, but I'm pretty sure I'm fucking wrong.
Oh, well, tell us. We'd love to laugh.
Yeah, we love theories. We won't confirm or deny. We will just sit here and go like this.
I mean, this is for theories. You can say whatever. If you're wrong, it's okay.
My theory is, and this is based off of my reading of Throne of Glass and how Sarah writes. So my theory is the next book. What is the next book called? What is
Wings and Ruin?
Wings and Ruin.
Okay. So Wings and Ruin. She's with Tamlin for pretty much majority of the fucking book, and we get this like back and forth because she started this POV with Rhysand and Feyre at the very end of this book. So I'm hoping she continues on with that because that's awesome. I love when authors do that. It's my fave. So I feel like that's going to happen, and then somehow the wing thing is going to come in because it's in the title. She's going to figure out how to use her wings and be so much like Rhysand that I'm kind of hoping Tamlin will walk away, but I don't think Tamlin's gonna fucking walk away. But she just kind of takes charge, but she takes Lucien with her. I have a feeling that Lucien goes with her.
Okay.
And this is Lucien, like the next story is Lucien's arc of like, hey, I am not your fucking plaything anymore either. So
yeah,
I feel that's what I feel like happening, and I am trying very hard not to be spoiled for the next book. Like I tried very hard to not be spoiled for this one, even though it's very fucking difficult.
Yes.
I was just like, I was trying to hide away from anything.
And this is for everyone, Jackie. I'll put this out. That originally Wings and Ruin was like the end of a trilogy. So I'll put that out there too. So there is a story arc that goes from 1 to 3. It is becoming very clear to me that like Sarah never even meant for it to be like she had plans for all this to keep going because it's not like everything's tied up at the end of the third. Absolutely not. It's not. But
it's left open for like future maybe if I want to go back.
The arc of what's happening, she had a trilogy for this one.
Okay.
So, just to know that.
Okay.
But, yeah, great. I mean, those are fine theories. I like what you're thinking. Good stuff. So
I just hope she doesn't sleep with Tamlin again because I don't think I can handle that. I'm really hoping we find a way.
I do think it's really cool though, like how both books 1 and 2 end with her going back to the Spring Court, but with very different circumstances.
Mindsets, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very clever. I like it. I like it. She's not defeated. She's a snake in the grass now. Yeah.
Rhysand has to watch her walk away from him again.
Again.
Yeah.
Again.
I mean, obviously things are different the second time. But yeah, like he still has to pretend like he's losing her, and he has to go through this whole thing again.
Yeah,
and he just has to trust her in that moment. Like you're gonna have to just roll with what she's doing, and he does
Yeah.
do it. He
Yeah.
lets her do her thing. Like, it wasn't
Well,
planned.
Like, who wouldn't? Like, that's the difference between Reese and Tamlin. He's literally sending his mate into enemy territory, and he trusts her to totally tear it up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and Tamlin wouldn't even let her come on patrol with him by her side.
Yeah.
That's the fundamental difference between them. Like,
Agree.
this is brilliant. Okay. We're at 3 hours.
Woo!
This is the thing. I love
We
how
could go
this
longer. I
is-
mean, really, we could go longer.
we definitely could. Like, some of these I would set like we're gonna have like 2-part discussion nights, but no, it's okay. Or start earlier. As it like we'll definitely have to start earlier for like the last couple books in this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, those are
Okay.
those are a lot.
The
Yeah.
longer the books
Unpack.
get, the longer.
Yep.
They're longer, and there's just lots of
Yeah.
stuff everywhere.
Yes. And like this one even only has one POV. Like, oh my
Yeah.
god, Empire of Storms. Like, so who was naughty and jumped right into Wings of Ruin? I always ask this. Who near not naughty? No one's
Not me.
I just finished it yesterday. That was a Polycon's fault. So, but I want to.
Yeah.
So,
Nope, I'm holding off because I'm getting ready for Empire of Storms. So,
Right.
Lord have
I
mercy.
am doing this in order. I am following the rules.
Got
I'm being
that.
very, very good, even though I'm not.
I like kind of want to set like a bet how many people will wait after Empire of Storms. I just kind of want to bet because I don't
if
know.
that's the
who's gonna be
case,
able
I
to-
feel like I should jump into Empire of Storms if I'm going to want to binge it, because I have a limited amount of time before I get super busy. So I don't know.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, you'll also like, I mean, as I've said, you'll also be as annoyed as all of us were who had to wait.
Oh
because
yeah,
Empire of Storms, and then you gotta read.
yeah.
What
I know.
it is.
I've
before you say that.
yeah. I'm aware of the
Yep.
problems
But
with the waiting
you-
and why.
Justin, I will only say like you legit have a reason because you won't be able to read it when you're taking your.
So it's okay if I break and I just binge.
Yeah, you get an excuse.
I don't know if it's okay, but it's okay. No, it's okay.
I'll probably have to, like, when the live shows happen, probably have to go back and like,
Yeah.
reread
I
Scrim
mean,
/
that's fair. Like I've read this book 6 times, and I only read it 2 weeks ago, and I still went back through it today because I like forget shit right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Me
mean, it's a
too.
lot, I mean,
like-
we read a lot of books. It's hard
It's
to know
books.
everything.
I
And,
purposely
like-
waited to read this to the end of the month because I wanted to make sure I was like 100 fresh
Fresh.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was waiting for someone to send me a message to be like, Jackie, we've seen your wrap up, so you haven't read it yet. I was waiting for some
Well-
comments, but I never got. I was like, okay, but
And,
yeah,
like-
I waited till the very end to read this, and oh my god, was this a fucking roller coaster? Damn. I don't think I'm gonna do it with Empire Storms. I think I'm just gonna read that in the middle of the month.
Yeah. And I mean, Justin, we do have like some of the biggest books when you're literally in school. Like
I know. I know. But at least I just have to read Throne of Glass, and then we'll have read everything else. Like
Yeah.
it'll be rereads
It's
for me.
rereads,
So
right.
once I finish Throne of Glass, I will at least have them all read once.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't Kingdom of Ash like 1,000 pages though?
Yeah, I might move up time for that.
Yeah.
For that stream.
Well, I think it's like 750 is what
It's like 984 pages. Kingdom of Ash.
oh, is it?
Yeah,
I don't know if the version
I mean, I could go.
it's
grab
almost
it, but-
1,000 pages.
okay. I can't remember. I read it in 7 hours, no matter how many pages it was. So
7 hours.
Ooh.
yeah, it was
Yeah, that is probably like a
average
not
log.
moving day. Like it's just like
Oh, from
focus.
from Wings of Ruin on, I took sick days every time a Sarah J. Maas book came out. I literally have for 6 years taken a sick day when one of her books came out. But I had just started my channel when Kingdom of Ash came out, and so yeah, I called in sick that day and I read
Good
the
for
entire
you.
and I vlogged it. I have a horribly done vlog of reading Kingdom of Ash. It was my very first one.
Everybody
Oh,
know
God,
what
I'm
this
doing
My very
vlog.
first vlog is this.
Yep.
So you're gonna see a very horrible vlog. I don't.
And I
With the grace of God, it's gonna go up, but you're gonna see it because I wanted people to see my reaction to this book because it was like, I want to see how you react to it.
I
Well,
bawled
you
my
do
eyes
too.
out. I mean, I'm able to wait for Wings and Ruin just because of like what Kana said. Like the first part comes out in 3 weeks.
Yes.
And I'm hoping by the time we read Wings of Ruin in September that like they'll mostly be out.
Me
So
too. Yeah.
That's why I'm fine with waiting.
So I have a question about the audios, because I definitely want to reread these with the graphic audios, because everybody has been hyping this in the comments and you guys. What when you say graphic audios, what is the difference between the regular audio and the graphic? Or is it the same thing?
Well,
You're just saying
no, it's literally what it says. An audio is a narration, one person reading the whole book to you just as it's written. The graphic audio is someone is like narrating, who is Feyre, but then also whenever there's dialogue or there is action things or there are like the door slammed, anytime there's an action tag or an audio tag, it's done. So like when ACOTAR starts and Feyre's walking through the snow going out to hunt, you hear like
footsteps,
snow crunching.
So where are you getting those at?
So
They're
Graphic
on
Audio is a
Podcast.
company. It's a separate company that makes these audiobooks. I have found all of Graphic Audios on Hoopla.
Yeah.
You can
they're on Audible,
Anyplay, and you could buy them directly from their website.
but it has a little black and yellow tag that says this is the graphic audio, and they're in multiple parts, so you'll be able to see.
Yep.
Yeah, part 1, part 2, part 3.
Yeah. But Wings and Ruin will have 3 parts.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, all right. We're going to end the live part of this anyway. Thank you to the 35 people who've been here for 3 months. The next live is August 28th on Crystal's channel, and it will be for Empire Storms.
Yay!
Things are gonna get crazy. It's gonna be amazing. And yeah, we love y'all. So have a good night or good morning wherever you are, and we'll see you next time. Stacy, you're the real MVP. I love you, girl.
Gross.